From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting, originating from the County Administrative Center located at 1115 Truxtun Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Kern County's vision is to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people we serve. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Board to reconvene. Good morning, Kathy and colleagues. I hear an echo. Do you hear that, Kathy?
I do. We're having staff in the back deal with that.
Okay. Do you want me to continue or wait?
Let me turn your mic down and let's see if that helps.
Sit tight with us, members of the public and staff, please. We just need a moment.
Try it again.
Can you hear me? That sounds better.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so very much. Appreciate that. Once again, good morning, Kathy and colleagues, and good morning, Kern County. Madam Clerk, we are to reconvene this meeting. Are we done with the technical issues? I'm going to pause again.
I certainly hope so. I hope we're ready to call roll.
Okay. Kathy Kraus, the floor is yours.
Supervisor Gleason.
Go Irish.
Always.
Supervisor Scribner.
Here.
Supervisor Maggard.
Here.
Supervisor Couch. Supervisor Couch is video conferencing in this morning, so let's make sure that we can get him.
I'm here.
I can hear you, David.
Wonderful, thank you. And Supervisor Perez.
Here, thank you. Are we going to see you? Are we going to video with Supervisor Couch when he speaks? Or
Yes,
if
we
he
are.
speaks? Okay,
Yes.
excellent. Okay, sit tight, Supervisor Couch. We're having some technical difficulties here, but we're going to move forward.
Okay.
Glad you're on. Good morning, Kern County, and welcome to the Tuesday, November 10, 2020 meeting of the Board of Supervisors. We will begin today's meeting with the flag salute led by Supervisor.
I believe, Madam Chair, that we have an issue with someone who is calling in on the Teams line is not muting their mic. We are trying to mute everyone's mic, and I think that is the feedback issue that we're experiencing.
Okay, shall I pause?
We're taking care of it.
Okay. We are going to begin today's meeting with the flag salute led by our very own Supervisor Zach Scribner. Following the flag salute, please remain standing for a moment of prayer, silence, or meditation, whichever you prefer.
Please place your hand over your heart. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to call Mr. Nick Cullen, Director of Animal Services Extraordinaire, to come out with our Pet of the Week. And a little twist this week, we do not have a doggy, which are usually my favorite, but today we have, are we on here, Kathy?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Look at this precious little baby. Who do we have?
I have with me this morning Daisy. Daisy is a highly vicious 10-week-old kitten who has been viciously attacking my hands for the past 30 seconds. But Daisy's about a 10-week-old female domestic medium hair kitten, again, highly aggressive.
Very dangerous.
So Daisy, we're seeking foster for Daisy, and the reason why, you can't see her probably from the cameras or from the audience, but Daisy has a problem with her eye. She came in that way. It's her right eye, and she is going to take a little diagnosis. So when she goes down for her space surgery, yeah, I'm talking about you, man. When she goes down for her space surgery, they're going to diagnose it a little bit further. It's potential that she might have either an eye surgery or a removal of the eye.
Oh, wow.
So
They do a little cat patch?
we wouldn't be able to keep that on Daisy if we did have that.
Clearly.
But so anybody who's willing to foster Daisy, it is going to be a bit of a commitment. At least 1 week, every visits back to the shelter every 1 week to see how she's progressing. But again, Daisy needs foster care. But Daisy's going to make somebody a cool pet. She might have to wear an iron glove.
Somebody an iron, yeah.
Foster is what we're seeking for Daisy.
So please open your hearts if you are able and capable of taking care of this just gorgeous and fun, playful friend. I don't think she'll ever be big enough to eat you, but that's why I stick with dogs myself. But cats are precious too. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dick. Thank you, Mr. Cullen. The County of Kern has provided notice that as a result of the declared federal, state, and local emergencies due to COVID-19 pandemic and in light of the governor's order, this Board of Supervisors meeting is not physically open to the public. Testimony and general public comment could be given through email or telephone to the clerk of the board prior to today's meeting, and live comments via teleconference will be heard during the meeting. We'll begin by considering the consent agenda. All items listed with a capital C, capital A are considered to be routine and non-controversial by staff, and they may be considered all at one time by one motion. If a member of the audience wishes to comment or ask questions regarding an item or items on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken on the consent agenda. A member of the board may remove any item from consent, and it will be considered in its listed sequence, with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. A member of the public may also comment on any closed session item. I understand one of my colleagues will be recusing themselves from one vote. We can do that now.
Yes, ma'am, that's me. I'm going to abstain from item number 45 this morning because my wife works for the hospital.
Thanks, Mick. Do we have any other recusals or comments on consent? I'm going to read the calendar now. On page 2, items 1 through 9. On page 3, items 12 through 17. On page 4, items 18 through 21 and items 23 through 25. On page 5, items 26 through 32. On page 6, items 34 through 40. On page 7, items 41 through 47. On page 8, items 48 through 55. And finally, on page 9, item 56. Is there any public comment in writing or waiting for us, or that we should consider at this time?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have 3 speakers who would like to address the board concerning consent items. We're going to hear from our first speaker, and her name is Allison Baptiste. She wants to address the board concerning item number 2, and I had her title written down, but I don't see it right now. So Allison, I know you're waiting on the line, ready to address the board regarding item number 2. If you would mute your phone by pressing *6, please provide your title to the board so they know who you represent.
Everyone, good morning, everyone. My name is Allison Baptiste. I am the chair of the Bakersfield-Kern Regional Homeless Collaborative's Homeless Youth Committee. I'm also a social worker with Greater Bakersfield Legal Assistance. I want to thank the board for taking a moment to recognize Homeless Youth Awareness Month. In our community, since the COVID-19 shutdowns began, we are seeing a rise in the number of homeless youth. As of today, we currently have 221 unaccompanied homeless youth in our community between 18 to 24 years old. This list continues to rise by 20 to 30 youth every month. As the other subpopulations of homeless in our community decrease, the rate of homeless youth continues to increase. The 221 I am describing are also those that fit the federal government's definitions of homelessness. So they do not include any couch surfing youth or the youth who are homeless and hiding or blending in because it's so dangerous to be on the streets, or youth who have not yet connected with agencies to be placed on the housing list. The Bakersfield-Kern Regional Homeless Collaborative has been working on combating this issue. Like I said, I chair the Homeless Youth Committee through the collaborative, which is comprised of multiple youth service providers and school personnel. We consistently work on this issue of youth homelessness through outreach planning, grant writing, focus groups, discussing policy, and evaluating data. I also want to thank all of you on behalf of all of the service providers in the Homeless Youth Committee, as this is the first time with state homeless dollars that we have seen the County of Kern, City of Bakersfield, and Bakersfield-Kern Regional Homeless Collaborative all invest some dollars into helping address the problem of homeless youth. As we continue into Homeless Youth Awareness Month, I just ask that all of you please keep the homeless youth in our community on your hearts and minds this month, as they are really struggling during these trying times. Thank you.
I really appreciate your comments and your passion about homeless youth. We know that as it relates to foster children, within 4 years of aging out of the foster system, 50% of foster kids are homeless. So we know that these systems, impact real people in real ways, and the more we collaborate, the stronger, better, safer society we're going to have. So I really thank you for your passion and for your work with really such precious little hearts and minds that we know have so much capacity to be redirected in their lives. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We also have on the line Sonia Bennett, who would like to address the board concerning item number 48 under Public Health. Ms. Bennett, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you may address the board.
Ms. Bennett, are you there? We can't hear you. You've got to unmute. If not, we're going to have to move on. We don't mean to be rude, but we've got to move on. Kathy, what else do we have? Maybe she'll call back in.
Let's go to our next speaker, Marlene Valdez.
Hi, Marlene.
Is also wanting to speak, although she's not in the queue either. So
Okay.
I believe we have Sonia Bennett. Are you available, Sonia?
Kathy, this is public comment as to consent.
That is correct. I can see in Teams that Sonia is attempting to unmute her phone, so I believe it's unmuted. Ms. Bennett, go ahead and address the board. I'm sorry, Ms. Bennett, we're not able to hear you.
Is she still in the queue, Kathy?
No,
Do we have anyone else?
we do not.
Okay, we're going to move on. And if she calls back, we'll put her in on, we'll accept her comment and know that it relates to consent for the record. Thank you. So closing the public portion of this hearing, I'm going to return to my colleagues and entertain a motion.
Motion.
See, motion to just approve. We don't have the other agenda items.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thanks, Zach.
Second.
Motion and second. We're going to do a voice vote call since Supervisor Couch is not physically with us, although he is on video conferencing. So Kathy, we have a
Yes.
motion and a second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Supervisor Gleason.
Yes.
Supervisor Scrivener.
Aye.
Supervisor Maggard.
Aye.
Supervisor Couch.
Yes.
And Supervisor Perez.
Yes, and if the record should reflect the recusal on Supervisor Gleason's matter. Thank you. Excuse us just a moment, please. Appreciate your patience. We're ready. Okay. Thank you for your patience. We're going to move on. We did proceed past the consent agenda. We may have a caller call in later, and we will accept those comments on the record, and we do apologize for the hassle. Public presentations is item number 10, and that portion of the agenda is reserved for matters that are within the jurisdiction of the Kern County Board of Supervisors, but not on today's specific agenda. So now would be the time to address issues that are legally before us, just not today. So we may consider them in the future. So, Kathy, do we have public presentations at this time? Public comment, as they say?
Yes, ma'am, we do. We're going to begin with voice messages. We received our first voice messages from Joy Rose regarding elections. Following that message, we're going to hear from 7 members of the public who provided voice messages regarding supporting the Building Healthy Communities contract.
Okay.
And we'll go from there. So let's start with the voice messages.
My name is Joy Rose, Joyrose, and I'm calling for a public presentation part of the agenda, and I would like to go on record and compliment and give my most sincere thank yous to Mary Bedard and her entire elections division. I know it's been a very rugged and difficult year, and I am very impressed with the documents they have mailed out to all of the households, giving instructions about in-person voting on election day or voting by mail in both English and in Spanish. And then in particular, a second document that was mailed out that's very lovely, large font, bright colors that give you all of the information you need for voting by mail is safe and easy in both English and in Spanish, and then how we go about doing it and returning it and tracking it. I have voted permanent absentee for over 30 years and have never had a problem. And I did, though, for the first time, hand deliver my ballot down yesterday in the drop box, and it was a very busy location, and I do want to thank that department because they have gone above and beyond to make sure that the public has access. And also on the forwarding of their documents, it goes to the household, and it also has forwarding service requested, not on my absentee ballot, but on the document information coming up. And also, I have been honored to serve as a community volunteer for the past 10 years on the Kern County Civil Service Commission, appointed under Ray Watson and reappointed under Supervisor David Couch. And I thank you very much, and please, the election division, I think they need some extra Starbucks coffee and cookies to congratulate the hard work that they've been doing.
My name is Aridhi S. Patel. I'm leaving this for public comment. BHC South Kern has done more than most of the elected officials have done for our communities. You all consistently play politics with people's lives instead of doing your jobs. You are a disgrace to your seat, even though it's consistently been held by oppressors for years. You all continue to uphold white supremacist values and throw our communities that need help under the bus. You all are receiving major blowback now for the mess of a situation you started 3 weeks ago just to leave everyone in a limbo. We don't pay you over $100,000 a year to do things like this. I'm done begging for you to care about our communities, and you guys know that's how the majority of Kern is starting to feel, so you're starting to lash out, especially white supremacists like Zach Scrivener. Every single one of you has failed to do your job, especially Zach Scrivener and Mike Maggard, and I will take personal joy in working every single moment of my free time to make sure you are not reelected in 2 years. This county has deserved better for a long time, and you will never give it to us. You're proclaiming November 2020 as National Homeless Youth Awareness Month in Kern County, but you are actively working against them with this past decision. You need to give that money back to BHC South Kern so our communities can finally begin to heal, because they very clearly do your job better than you can. BHC South Kern has had a long track record of building relationships with their community, and giving the money to any other group would mean disaster for our most marginalized communities.
Good afternoon. My name is Valeria Garcia, and I'm a citizen of Bakersfield. I'm calling because I am urging the Kern County Board of Supervisors to actually fund Building Healthy Communities Kern to help them stop the spread of COVID. COVID-19 is obviously rampant, and it's obviously going to only get worse if the Board of Supervisors does not fund the appropriate groups to help combat COVID-19. BHC has a track record and trust among communities that need the most help, and they need this funding, and they need the support from the Kern County Board of Supervisors to keep our citizens healthy. If the Kern County Board of Supervisors chooses to not help Building Healthy Communities Kern, then they are personally saying that they do not care about the most at-risk communities in Kern County, and that is incredibly eye-opening, and we will definitely remember it if that's the case. Like I said again, we need to make sure that Kern County is safe and healthy from COVID-19, and the Kern County Board of Supervisors can keep Kern safe if they continue to support organizations like Building Healthy Communities Kern. Thank you. Goodbye.
My name is Gabrielle, Gabrielle Gonzalez. I'm a resident in Bakersfield, and this is for public presentations, agenda item number 10, AM session. And my comment is as follows. It is completely unacceptable that the Board of Supervisors has jeopardized its own community by refusing to grant money to help the most at-risk populations here in Kern County. This decision will do more harm than good at a time when COVID-19 cases are on the rise as temperatures are dropping. The Board of Supervisors clearly do not care about its own community because they choose to endanger the most vulnerable by supporting the violent Bakersfield Police Department and refusing to provide COVID relief during a global pandemic. Money needs to be invested in our people and not the police. BHC Kern, South Kern is doing more work than you for public health and safety and greatly needs this money immediately. Supervisor Zach Scrivener obviously cares more about politics than the people he is supposed to represent. You should all be ashamed of yourselves for denying this contract. Thank you.
Hello, Board of Supervisors. My name is Brian Osorio, and I am a council member for the City of Delano. I am providing a public comment to express my support for Building Healthy Communities Kern and their calls of accountability. The cancellation of a contract to award BHC Kern the necessary funds to conduct COVID-19 outreach was irresponsible and inconsiderate of our vulnerable and marginalized communities. Being from Delano and from District 4, our vulnerable communities stand to lose the most from this cancellation. On the topic of race and ethnicity, a clear majority of positive COVID-19 cases in Kern County have been found in the Hispanic populations. This is according to the county's dashboard. And according to the census, Delano has a Hispanic population over 75%. It was only a few months ago where Delano had a surge of active cases as reported by KGET. BHC Kern has a reputable relationship and working closely with our communities across the county, having recently worked on this year's census outreach as well as efforts around the ACA and Medi-Cal. Please reconsider your decision and move forward with a contract for BHC Kern. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jeanette, Jeanette, and I'm calling in regards to the fact that the Kern County Board of Supervisors canceled the award they were planning to give BHC, Building Healthy Communities of Kern, so then they can reach COVID-19 in hard-to-reach areas. I hope that the board reconsiders and upholds their commitment to disenfranchised areas, especially because it's affecting people and the way that Kern County can open safely. I hope that you take into account disenfranchised people and make decisions that will support the public good. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chad Steep, Jasdeep, and I'm a concerned resident of Kern County. I just want to emphasize the importance of the COVID plan that was brought up earlier and rejected. And I just wanted to say that it actually impacts all of our communities and directly impacts all of us. The longer we delay it, the longer delay for opening Kern is. So if you can, please go ahead and approve that. Thank you.
Hello, I'm calling to leave a message for the Board of Supervisors.
regarding not funding building healthy communities for the purposes of COVID-19. That's just a really horrible decision because this is, COVID-19 is a situation that affects everyone here in our community in Bakersfield and Kern County. And this was something for the benefit of everyone. And it's a punishment for speaking up against police brutality and lack of police accountability here in Bakersfield. And I think that the Board of Supervisors need to reconsider their decision in not choosing to fund Building Healthy Communities efforts for COVID-19 outreach. Thank you for your time.
Madam Chair, that concludes the voice messages we received. I would like to go back. Sonia Bennett is on the line. She's calling in from a different phone. Hopefully this will work. So Ms. Bennett, we're ready to hear from you regarding your comments on consent agenda item number 48. It was approved on the consent agenda. However, we do want to hear your comments. So please unmute your phone by pressing *6 and address the board.
You can hear me.
We can. Sorry for the hassle, but welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I wanted to bring to your attention 48 that this agreement was originally established to provide physical and occupational therapist services. It was as a result of a staffing loss at the department. And here I skipped over a part. So I should have introduced myself as a member of SEIU 521. I was part of the meet and confer team that worked with the department and human resources and trying to come about in finding people to fill these positions. The agreement that we had with the department, the county, was that as there was increases and modifications done to this agreement, we would be meeting periodically. The last time that we were consulted was on the September 1st increase for this agreement. I realize that it has expanded in providing COVID services for nurses and contact tracers, but the department didn't meet with us prior to this increase, and we have had no update as to their efforts in staffing. I believe they still have not hired one therapist, and they have been without staff for well over a year. So my ask, since I understand this was approved on the consent agenda, is for the department and human resources to meet with the meet and confer team to provide them an update as to what is being done to hire physical and occupational therapists. The individuals that are served are not being served appropriately because they need ongoing care with someone they can identify with, someone that they build a relationship with. And temporary staffing does not provide that. Thank you.
Matt, would you mind? I really appreciate it.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
We would be happy to meet at their convenience and provide an update. I think that's what her request was.
Matt, thank you so much.
course.
And what is the best way for a person to do that?
We've been working through human resources with Devin Brown, so we'll just reinstitute that and provide an update as she has requested.
Got it. Thank you so much. Do we have other comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are back in public presentations, and we are going to hear from the public who has called in. I did want to, prior to that, confirm that your board received one email from Cindy Brown regarding SEIU labor negotiations. You received it electronically. You also have a copy in front of you.
We did.
And you received 28 emails and letters in support of the county contracting with Building Healthy Communities Kern. And we have about 8 or 9 speakers waiting to address your board. So we're going to start with Dalton Jones. Mr. Jones, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you have 2 minutes to address the board.
Okay, cool. I'm on. Hi. So I just wanted to talk today as one of the people who was responsible for the image that you punished Building Healthy Communities for. Specifically, I came here today as being a part of the People's Budget BACO, which led the campaign to defund the Bakersfield Police Department. And I just want to tell you, like, this was a show of white toxicity on every single one of your parts. You chose a few weeks ago to stand and draw the line as defending white supremacists in this city, a county that's literally seen Black people be attacked since it's dawn. We've had lynchings here. We saw a Black person be murdered here. None of you did anything. We've seen Trump supporters hang out and literally assault women, disabled people, as well as Black people in this county, and you all have done nothing. We've seen so many groups that you all work with be political, but the thing is about their being political is they're always standing up for white supremacy. They're not standing up for Black people. They're not standing up for brown people. They're not standing up for everybody in every color in between. They're standing up for white supremacy, and that's what they're upholding, and that's what you chose as the Board of Supervisors to uphold a couple weeks ago. Building Healthy Communities have literally spent their whole entire lifespan as an organization helping people in this community that our Board of Supervisors, that our elected officials, both city and county, refuse to help. They've spent a good chunk of their Corona time literally giving out $500 gift cards to community members who need it, to the community members that money would have helped that you chose to punish them for. This isn't okay, and it's really disheartening to again see the people that I really wish that you all could show up for people as much as you say you do. It's disheartening to see that. And the only thing I ask you all to do is that I've heard all of you on different occasions talk about how much of a God-fearing person you are. Jesus was killed by the state. So I need you all to use that same God that you all are saying that you love so much and think about how he would have actually chose to do better for the people in that moment. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ms. Riddhi Patel. Ms. Patel, you have 2 minutes to address the board. Please unmute your phone by pressing *6. We're going to move on to Julie Solis is our next speaker. Ms. Solis, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you may address the board.
Good morning, Kern County. My name is Julie Solis, and I live in District 3. Kern County Board of Supervisors continues to play politics with people's lives, especially those that are Black and brown. The Kern County Board of Supervisors does not care about the health of our community. Groups that lead our community need not to be made afraid to follow what is right in the community. They need not be made to follow your racist agenda in order to receive funds. We need to fund building healthy communities. Our communities need the support. You all pushed to reopen Kern County. Every single one of you pushed to reopen. And now that my people, Black and brown people, are the ones being most affected, you deny helping our communities. You deny helping and the Latino Black communities that are being most affected by your push to reopen. I didn't see any of you out there saving lives and educating our most vulnerable community members. I don't see any of you out there. This decision is irresponsible, just like our deadly law enforcement and law enforcement leaders. We need to defund hate and fund help. Stop supporting white supremacy. Stop defending the hate in Kern County. Our Black and brown communities are fed up with the hate that you all lead. I'd like to thank you all for hearing me today. Please, we need to defund hate and fund help. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Solis.
Thank you. We'll go back to Riddhi Patel. I believe she is ready to address the board. Ms. Patel, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you have 2 minutes to address the board.
Sorry, I think it's spazzed out, but okay. I'm going to be clear. I don't like any one of you because all of you uphold white supremacist values consistently and consistently thrown communities under a bus. Let's cover just the past couple of months. You refused to provide evictions protections in the middle of a pandemic where millions of Americans lost their jobs. You have refused to give a raise to the members of the United Domestic Workers of America in Kern County. Union members who have fought for a raise for years, even though a neutral arbitrator even came in and said you should give them a raise. And 3 weeks ago, you took $1 million away from the community organization BHC Kern for supporting investing in communities. While defunding the police gained national attention this past summer, it is clear that every single one of you are uneducated on the history of Black and brown organizers that have fought to defund the police for decades because they continue to see their schools, their youth programs, their housing, and more defunded instead. You called it a radical political agenda because communities would rather have money for their communities because they continue to see a majority of their taxpayer money go to an inherently racist institution instead of things they need. At this meeting, you will claim November 2020 as National Homeless Youth Awareness Month in Kern County, but literally continuously do almost nothing to address the root issues of why they're homeless. Inaccess to housing. White supremacist Zach Scribner's aunt, Kern County DA Cynthia Zimmer, who also upholds white supremacist values, along with the white supremacist sheriff, Donnie Youngblood, have literally announced in the past that they were considering addressing Kern County's lack of low-income housing and healthcare by criminalizing homeless people. You very clearly punished BHC Kern, who has had the best track record in Kern County of reaching the communities that are so often overlooked by every single one of you. 3 weeks ago, with a blatant attempt at suppressing free speech by telling organizations that if you support a political view that you don't agree with, you will literally financially blackmail them.
Thank you, Ms. Patel.
Just pit people against each other.
Thank you so
all
much.
are a joke.
Thank you for your call. I really appreciate it. Kathy, who else do we have?
Our next speaker is Emma De La Rosa, representing Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability. Ms. De La Rosa, the board does have the email, the letter that you submitted to them yesterday. You may address the board for 2 minutes. Please unmute your phone by pressing *6.
Good morning. My name is Emma De La Rosa. I'm a policy advocate with Leadership Council. Thank you all for your time today. COVID-19 cases in Kern are again increasing, and the county is at risk of going back to the purple tier, just in case y'all were not aware. Yet, the county is in non-compliance with the state-mandated targeted equity investment plan to reduce cases in the most affected 35 census tracts. In efforts to respond to the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on Black and brown communities and populations, CDPH introduced a health equity metric on August 8, 2020 to help counties track test positivity in the most vulnerable census tracts and invest in those communities to decrease the disproportionate number of cases. The state mandated county public health departments to develop a targeted equity investment plan to specify activities the county will undertake to reduce cases and positivity rates in the most vulnerable census tracts. As of today, November 10th, 2020, the county public health department is not adhering to the targeted equity investment plan the county itself submitted to the state on October 15th. According to the targeted equity investment plan on the CDPH website, and thus submitted and approved by CDPH, Kern County Public Health funded the Lourdes Huerta Foundation Visión y Compromiso Adelante strategies in building healthy communities to perform
outreach activities. The aforementioned organizations were selected by Kern Public Health Department to provide COVID-19 outreach and education because they are trusted and well known within the 35 census most vulnerable tracts in Kern County. However, Board of Supervisors rejected these contracts on October 20th, 2020. I'm here to urge you to approve those contracts to begin the implementation of the Targeted Equity Investment Plan. It is unacceptable to allow your most affected constituents to continue to face the harsh realities of COVID-19 without your support. If Kern County is not complying with the plan submitted and approved by CDPH, Kern County will not be eligible to move forward through the tiers as it is in clear violation of the standards set forth by the state and is not investing in the lowest percentile communities who are disproportionately affected by COVID-19. This is your opportunity to correct the course and show your constituents that you care about their health and well-being. I urge you to approve those contracts listed on the plan and begin working toward reducing COVID-19 cases in the most disproportionately impacted communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Yolanda Vega. Ms. Vega, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you have 2 minutes to address the board.
Good morning. Today, this country is in the third wave of COVID-19 pandemic. Today, this country has over 10 million COVID-19 pandemic cases. Today, this country has over 240,000 COVID pandemic deaths. So much for this country turning the corner, as Donald Trump kept lying about during the presidential campaign. The delay of any COVID-19 public health outreach to residents in District 4 communities is a public health crisis. The delay of any COVID-19 public health outreach to residents in District 4 communities is a public crisis. When some members of the Board of Supervisors decided to vote against deploying COVID-19 public health outreach to residents in District 4, they were jeopardizing the health and well-being of residents in District 4. Why do I keep emphasizing how this vote affects the residents of District 4? Because I live in District 4 and because it was way too easy for the Board of Supervisors to vote for their own political self-interest and to vote against the self-interest of residents who live in District 4. But now that the county is on track to backsliding to the most restrictive opening tier, the Board of Supervisors vote to delay deploying COVID-19 public health outreach has jeopardized the economic health and well-being of Kern County. Great job. In conclusion, I believe the vote not to immediately deploy COVID-19 public health outreach to residents of District 4 was meant to appeal to Donald Trump's base in Kern County during this intense presidential race. I believe if you asked local law enforcement agencies in District 4 if they could support delaying COVID-19 public health outreach during a national third wave of pandemic while Kern County is backsliding to a more restrictive tier, I believe any first responders would support the immediate deployment of COVID-19 public health outreach in District 4 without any delays. David Couch, where have you been? What are you doing to represent District 4?
Thank you very much for your call.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Veronica Vasquez. Ms. Vasquez, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you have 2 minutes to address the board.
Hi, good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Veronica Vasquez. I'm a constituent of District 4, and my sentiments go along with everyone that has spoken today. My concern is when the pandemic started, it was a learning curve, and it took your board months to get a testing site in the second largest town of Kern County, Delano, California. And now here we are today. It's 3 weeks in, and we don't have the basic services necessary. So going back to the lady that just spoke ahead, David Couch, where's your outrage? I have yet to see a statement. When you do other events here, you're in news outlets, you're on social media, but when this incident happened 3 weeks ago, I have not heard a peep from you. Delano is the second largest city in Kern County. and being affected by this. I have generations and generations of family in this community, and this is a huge disappointment. The three that voted on this, you don't have your family here. You don't have generations of family. I have great aunts and uncles here. How dare you take away the necessary resources for them? How dare you use that position in that way? You should be ashamed of yourself. And Supervisor David Couch, I'm still waiting for a statement from you to condemn your peers on what they did, because it's not okay. It's not okay for you to play with the lives of my family and my community. So take this back, vote on it, and vote the right way. But you provide those necessary services that these communities deserve. And you three men do not live in this community, and you don't have family in this community. But I do, and I know lots of people that do. So shame on you for doing this and playing with our lives. Thank you.
Thank you for your call.
Thank you. The next speaker in the queue is Noe Paramo. Mr. Paramo, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you have 2 minutes to address the board. I don't think he's on the line. Let's go to Hector Hernandez. Mr. Hernandez, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you have 2 minutes to address the board. We can hear you.
Ako kwa ni me na ni Hector Hernandez yo ka yu ta we ni nya ka sa ho. When ka nya ni speko na ka inga sana when ka Cecilia. My name is Hector Hernandez, and I'm here speaking on behalf of those families and folks that speak in our native language that reside in Kern County. And my call here is to ask for the county's Board of Supervisors to reconsider the contract with BHC, and because we are a group that we've been participating for years in the communities, and our focus has always been, our well-being of our communities and people that reside in our districts and in our communities. And we have people that speak native languages like Mixtecos, Zapotecos, and other languages in Kern County. And with this pandemic, it's been affecting everybody, but in our community, due to the language barrier, a lot of our families and members of our communities, they don't go to the doctors or to the hospitals because they don't understand the English, or they don't speak English. So our communities are going through all this, as well as many other members of the communities. And unfortunately, a lot of the communities that reside here, they're farm workers, and that's why we're asking for for the counties, the Board of Supervisors, to reconsider the contract that will benefit our communities with the outreach that we can do for our members and our families. I urge Couch, who's on District 4, to come and do something, correct the problem, correct the situation, and reconsider the contracts, especially for our farm workers communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That concludes public comment under public presentations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it. That brings us to the conclusion. One of those mornings, Kathy. This brings us to the conclusion of our public presentation. Is that correct, Kathy? We've had...
Actually,
Hello, I was calling in for public comment.
Yes, is this Noe Paramo?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Noe.
You have 2 minutes to address the board, sir.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair Perez and members, Noe Paramo with California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation. I request that you reconsider your action to not vote on the items 31 and 32 that were on the October 20th agenda, and request that you agendize them for a vote on the merits of the proposed contracts that were presented by your county staff. At the October 20th board meeting, I commented in support of the contract with the Building Healthy Communities, Kern community-based organizations to conduct vital outreach and education canvassing activities to underserved and hard-to-reach populations based on the need for COVID-19 pandemic urgency. The reasons I gave were that time is of the essence. It's really critical that they are positioned to do the activities and meet with the health equity metrics for Kern. I was dismayed that the board did not consider the merits of the contracts presented. Rather, the board debated the content purely on political reasons that were not rationally related to the substance of the contract, mainly to conduct these much needed activities that would mitigate the negative impacts of COVID-19 in Kern County. The county, through this contract, is a beneficiary that will help the county meet the health equity metric, lift up the county through the tier system, and now, as we see cases on the rise, is much more needed than ever, and ultimately benefit the county economically, socially, educationally, and health-wise for all residents and businesses. Thank you for your time. We appreciate your consideration on this important matter for our communities. Good morning.
Thank you, Noah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes public presentations.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you for helping us get through that. It is certainly an intense time, as we can see from the callers. I really appreciate folks calling in and expressing their concern and love for this community. I appreciate less the name calling and division, because of course that doesn't help anybody, and it certainly doesn't build the kind of relationships that we need to build in order to craft good outcomes. And so I'm proud to be a staunch supporter of nonpartisan politics in this office and in this dais, because it has no place here. We do have disagreements. We are civil about them. That's the American way, as you know, and we respect each other's differences up here and follow the law. That is the absolute best and required of us as public servants. So these are complicated issues. I'm going to remain calm as we move through them, because that's what's called of me. And I think the moment that we've all kind of been waiting for on this issue is an opportunity to hear from District 4 Supervisor David Couch. He and I have not had an opportunity to connect in person yet, although we did email, and I'm eager to work with him. You all may know Supervisor Couch launched the first in the country mobile testing unit that has been out with farm workers in the community. I'm sure he'll have an opportunity to update you on that, but I don't want to make any presumptions here. I'd like to hear from Supervisor Couch. We know that he's here on video conference, and I'm sure he has strong opinions about these matters. And as is customary of this board, we usually work through our matters in a quite civil fashion. So I certainly intend that to be the case here. So Supervisor Couch, good morning. I hope you're well. This, as you have heard, many members of the community are eager to hear from you. I think they are hopeful that we can reach a resolution here without continuing unnecessary strife. So I'm certainly hopeful of that as well. So welcome, Supervisor Couch. The public has asked to hear from you, and so if you could provide some thoughts, I think that would be appropriate and helpful in this moment.
Well, thanks for the introduction. By the way, just so everyone knows, I am not attending the meeting today because I was informed last night that I was exposed to COVID-19 on Friday around the middle of the day. And so I'm quarantining, and I want to make sure, I'd like to talk to Matt Constantine offline after this because I would like to attend the next meeting, but I want to make sure that I give it enough time, Matt. And if I need to be tested, I will be tested sometime this week, but I want to know the appropriate time to be tested. So if we can do that later, Matt, I would appreciate that. And frankly, because there has been now not only a threatened lawsuit, but I'd have to ask Margot to comment on this, but I think we've also received an actual letter in writing threatening, I'm not sure if it's threatening a lawsuit or if it's telling us there will be a lawsuit. I don't think it's I already was in the midst of having some discussions, and then the lawsuit was threatened, and now we've got that hanging over our heads. So I don't know that it's very appropriate for me to comment at this time, and I know it's on we're going to be having a discussion in closed session, I believe, today. Thank you.
Okay. We're then going to have this discussion, and I want to work with Supervisor Couch offline as well. I hope he is welcome to that, because I do think that we can resolve these matters in a way that's good for the community. Time is of the essence, so I do plan on reporting out after closed session some progress should that be made. I think the community is demanding that, and I know Supervisor Couch would be open to that. So we're going to move on. I'd ask you to please be patient on this matter. It is important, but we are going to work through it together, and we will present a solution to the community. Moving along to board member announcements, Mr. Constantine. He's our Director of Public Health. Can you please come down for an update? Again, thank you for not quitting on us. Thank you for helping us through these tough issues, and it's been up and down. It's only once in a century this happens, Matt, so yes. I don't know why we weren't more prepared, but here we are doing the best that we can, and I do appreciate you. Matt, you've done remarkable outreach to Latinos. Thank you.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a brief update as we do each board meeting. This morning, we are going to announce 143 additional COVID-19 cases in Kern County residents, and fortunately, no additional deaths. This morning, the state is releasing our weekly monitoring metrics. The case rate that the state is going to release is 8.0. That's a number of new cases per 100,000. And our adjusted case rate, unfortunately, is 8.9. Our testing positivity, the state will report, is 5.2%, and our health equity metric testing positivity is 6.8. What matters with those statistics is we are not currently meeting the red tier metrics. And so the state is now today putting us on notice that for week 1, we have failed the red metric tier. If we continue down this path and next Tuesday also fail the metrics, the state will then 3 days subsequently push us back into tier 1, or that purple tier, which would then result in a number of businesses having to shut down, similar to what we did previously. So this is not good news. It is not unexpected, as we have watched this change throughout the world and the nation, and even yesterday the governor announced that California is seeing some increases statewide. The testing rate is also something that the county is judged on. As of today, Kern's average testing rate is 197. Again, that's per 100,000. And we are compared against the state's average, and that average is now increased, as you would expect. It is at 271. So if we do the math, the state is indicating that we need an additional about 680 additional tests per day to meet the state average and not have that adjustment to our case rate applied. So we have made improvement. It's important to note that our average testing rate has increased significantly, but consequently, so has the state average. So we have a difference that we have to reach. It's important to note that our hospitals remain healthy. We have significant availability on hospital beds and ICU beds. In fact, we're probably again near the top, meaning we have more beds and ICU beds available than we've had in months. The number in the last week has decreased slightly as beds have become more in demand, but we are still in a really good position. Our health care system remains well managed and prepared for any increased cases. It's important to also note that we are meeting 2 of the 3 metrics. Our testing positivity countywide at 5.2% is good. That's low. And our health equity positivity metric is currently meeting the standard, and that's also good. But it's important to recognize that this is, again, not unexpected, and we've watched states like Texas and those in the Midwest that have recently been inundated with cases. So we are staffing and preparing for increased cases if that comes, but it's important to recognize that we must remain on the course. We've done well to this point. Our preventative measures, our healthy habits, our willingness to put off family gatherings and to wash our hands and to be aware and to help protect others has worked to this point. Those same proven methods work and need to be applied as we are now faced with another challenge of increasing cases. Specifically on the health equity metric, I want to just briefly provide you some updates on our efforts to address that. We've talked at length about the Kern County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and their Latino task force. They remain very active. Madam Chair is an important part of that. We are making progress with them. They've been very active. We have started to develop an internal process to try to improve some of those metrics. So we have started to hire some extra help or temporary employees with the objective of quickly deploying teams of county employees into these impacted 35 census tracts that the state has identified as being disadvantaged and needing some additional help. And their objective is to increase testing and to encourage preventative measures and healthy habits. This is an effort through public health. So beginning next week, we will have public health employees that have been hired for this purpose and represent the communities that we're trying to help. We'll focus on one affected census tract at a time using a GIS map that we have developed in-house. We will break up into teams and go door to door. The intent would be for us to provide information about the importance of testing, to dispel some of the myths that we heard about COVID-19, to talk about the accessibility of testing, which will then be concurrently being conducted in those census tracts either that day or the following day. So it's very easily accessible by those census tracts that we're trying to reach. We will be providing PPE as we go door to door. We'll leave some educational information, so it's good to reference because I know it's a lot to take in as we knock on the door. We will be leaving packets of information on the door if the individuals are not home. We will also be mailing directly to homes in these census tracts information so that if you've missed our knock on the door and our opportunity to talk or missed the information that we've left, we are going to send you information in the mail about the importance of testing and about the accessibility of testing sites in your neighborhood. And finally, we are also going to continue our efforts to make phone calls using the Kern County Fire Department's reverse 911 system called Ready Kern. We are sending out messages, again, coordinated with our efforts in those census tracts, so they're timed appropriately, about just the same messaging, about a testing site that will be in your neighborhood, about the importance of testing. Our hope is that all of these efforts done concurrently will help us not only help those in those affected census tracts, but help the county as a whole as the state uses those data points as a way to gauge our efforts. Madam Chair, that concludes my comments. I'm certainly happy to answer questions.
Mr. Constantine, thank you. I'm going to go to our ad hoc members as they've been working much more closely with you, and I know Supervisor Maggard is teed up. Supervisor Maggard, thank you for your leadership on these matters. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Constantine, good morning.
Morning.
Could you give us a sense of what we're doing specifically to address those areas that where the disease appears to be stronger and more virulent, and those census tracts that are part of that health equity standard?
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, our intent is to be comprehensive and focus all of our resources on trying to drive down the disease through preventative measures and increase testing. So this team of employees will be used to achieve just that, and then we'll monitor their progress on a daily basis. We have team captains that are going to be created. We're going to meet with the team every day, review their progress, augment our message, or provide additional information if we're learning about additional hurdles. But we're hopeful that that approach will make some differences in those very important census tracts.
The strategy that we are employing to help these specific areas, did it not emanate from your department?
Yes, sir.
So tell us a little bit about how you came up with those ideas, and are there any advantages to being nimble, to shift direction, be reactive to a specific issue in a specific neighborhood when we control all of those variables internally?
Yes, sir. So as county employees, we're going to be able to use live data that we receive from our epidemiologists that identify the locations of most concern. We are going to be able to adapt the scope of their reach, the duration of their reach, and the hours of their efforts on a moment's notice. These are extra help employees that are willing to work on different hours. And our hope is the coordination between testing sites from the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and our epidemiologist work, receiving live data, and the health equity team together will allow us to be dynamic and responsive, immediately responsive to the information that we're receiving at Public Health.
Thank you. Could you walk us now through a few of the implications of us being in the red tier, but being having the potential to slide back into the purple tier? As could you first reiterate for us a little bit, the circumstance we find ourselves in, where the case rate and whatnot is rising in Kern County, is not unique to Kern County. Could you walk us through that a little bit and put it in perspective as to what's happening in the world and in the country?
Yes, sir. So once again, our numbers are unfortunately not unexpected, and this is what has been occurring throughout the nation. We have watched somewhat the westerly migration of the disease as more and more states now have been impacted. We've watched with interest what's happening in Texas in particular and their healthcare system. There's been reports this morning about many of the Midwestern states that have been impacted. And we had expected, and in fact had started to staff at Kern County Public Health up accordingly in anticipation that this new wave would hit us. Yesterday, with the governor's announcement that not only does the state see increases, but we've seen individual counties, especially within the Central Valley, have also experienced similar increases and are on the same position that we are in particular. Fresno, Kings in particular, find themselves in the same position where we are a week into not meeting the current red tier metrics. That again has implications to businesses in particular, churches and restaurants to name a few, that the state would then force us to go back and apply those same Tier 1 restrictions to limit certain businesses from operating.
So could you walk us through now a little bit of the implications of what happens if, what must occur before we slide back into the purple tier, and what happens when that occurs, if it should occur?
Supervisor Magro, through the chair, so we are now at week 1. We have to fail the metric, the current metrics, for 2 consecutive weeks. So this is a warning signal to us that we have exceeded the case rate, and that alone is indicating that we are failing the red tier metrics. If we continue to fail those metrics on Tuesday of next week, the state will then force us to revert back to that Tier 1 or purple tier. They give counties 3 days leeway to make that change. So by the end of next week, we could potentially be affected.
So let's talk first about the implications on schools.
Yes, sir.
So could you walk us through, many parents are elated that their children can be back in the classroom, but can you just explain a little bit about what will occur and what the implications of this are on our schools?
Yes, sir. So schools had the opportunity, once the county went into the red tier, to make a decision as elected school boards to open up their schools to either a hybrid level or a delayed opening or to other alternatives. Many schools made that decision to open up and to make their plans known. That by making that decision, that decouples the schools from the county's metrics. Now, I will add, the state at the end of October made a change to their guidance document, and it was buried in the frequently asked questions. And it states that if a school site itself has not opened as of yet, and the county reverts back to purple, that individual school site would need to wait until the county went back into the red tier to open up. So this just impacts schools that chose not to open to this point. And if we revert back to purple and the school has not opened, the school would need to wait until the county went back into the red tier to open up.
It is my understanding that you have met with all school districts in Kern County, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And do they understand that completely?
Yes, sir.
So are there any of those schools that are not open and could be implicated by this?
So we have asked the superintendent of schools to put together a list for us so that we're aware and that we can try to assist them in some decision making. We don't have the list yet. We know most schools have opened to some degree. We don't believe this will impact many school sites, but we don't have a list yet.
Okay. I just want to make sure those schools are aware that's a decision the school makes.
Yes, sir.
And it's an imposition upon them by the governor, not the county of Kern, and that if they are open, they have a window to continue to operate if they are moving in that direction.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Now, with regard to businesses, can you walk us through what the implications are to our businesses if and the jobs that go along with those businesses if indeed we fall back into the purple?
Yes, sir. So the businesses that are affected are clearly on our website and on the state's website. I know most importantly, churches and restaurants are affected. Those previous red tier abilities to open up partially, we would revert back, and indoor dining and indoor worship services would not be allowed. There are other businesses that are affected too, but those are the two most prominent.
Clearly, the financial implications, the peril that the policies of the governor's office are imposing upon employers throughout California either is misunderstood or is being disregarded, because every time the opportunity comes to reopen or to expand their operation, significant dollars are spent. And then when they cut off that opportunity to be open and to recoup those costs, it just compounds, further imperils, and makes more likely that those jobs will not be sustained. That is most sad to me and unfortunate. So I know we will continue to try to be a source of information for those that are implicated by this, but I appreciate your help with that. Can you talk to us a little bit about, and then I'll let Supervisor, I think Supervisor Scrivener wants to talk a little bit about our capacity to deal with the surge as it might occur. But is it not the case that we will likely see this disease rise and fall in its rate of infection and incidence, the case rate? The model has had several peaks and then a bit of a decline and then another peak. And so walk us through a little bit why it's appropriate for us to anticipate there's going to be an ebb and flow to this.
Yes, sir. So we have seen back even in July, we saw quite a few number of cases. Our hospitals were busy and becoming full. Through late summer, that changed. We saw some of the numbers decrease. And again, it decreased for a few months, and now we're seeing another rise. So again, this is not unexpected. We do expect these cases to rise again. We don't know to what extent. We believe we are ready to handle that challenge. We meet with the hospital CEOs, all 10 acute care hospital CEOs routinely to review our plans and to talk about what we're going to do. We have our alternative care site still up and running. Within 48 hours, we can have everything deployed and ready to go. Again, our bed space remains very strong. Our ICU beds remain available. We are prepared as we were previously, but we do expect the numbers to rise, and as you stated, then they'll subsequently subside to some degree. It's a new virus, and of course we don't have a lot of history handling pandemics, but this is not unexpected behavior.
Thank you, Mr. Constantine, for your help with this. Our detractors will blame us for everything, and I hope that you are sustained through this to just keep your nose to the grindstone, you and your department, and Mr. Alsop and his staff and this board have worked tirelessly to try to make sure we keep our eye on the ball and keep trying to take care of these issues. So I appreciate that. Yes, Madam Chair, with your approval, I would like to defer to Supervisor Scribner.
Thank you, Supervisor Maggard. Supervisor Scribner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Supervisor Maggard. Mr. Constantine, I wanted to go through just once again the numbers, the various metrics that we need to meet in order to move through the tiers, stay in the red tier. In this case, is what our current objective would be. The required case rate is 7%. Is that correct for the red tier?
So it would be a 7, so
Okay.
case rate of 7.
Okay. And so you said currently we're at 8.9, and that's the adjusted rate.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so where are we really?
8.
We're at 8.
8.0.
Okay, we're at 8.0. So now we know where the target is as far as the case rate's concerned. But if I heard your numbers correctly, on the test positivity rate, we are meeting that by a few percentage points, it looks like. You said we're at 5.2?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that has to be, in order for us to stay in red?
Yes, sir.
8? No, it has to be.
To stay in red, it has to be below 8%.
8%.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
And so we're meeting that by nearly
by a lot.
3,
We're
by nearly
almost
3 percentage
we're
points.
almost meeting the orange tier for testing positivity.
And that, I know that we've been encouraging folks to get tested. And so for folks that do test and they come up negative for COVID, that helps that number for us. And so we put quite a bit of effort into that. Yes, with incentives for our own county employees and others. Okay, on to the equity metric. We're meeting that one as well.
Yes, sir.
And so that, you said we were at 6.8?
Yes.
And we need to remain at?
We need to remain below 8.
Below 8 for that one, okay. Very good. When you, just a real quick, as you were talking with Supervisor Maggard about the schools, you said schools open to some degree. And so that means for a lot of the school districts are starting with their vulnerable student populations, English learners, kids that, that maybe have some learning disabilities, et cetera, et cetera. That is a strategy for a lot of school districts to start with those most vulnerable populations first. And so does that qualify as being open to some degree, or do you have to be open, to other students?
Yes, Supervisor Scribner, you ask an important question. So schools were allowed to open up even under the purple tier under a cohorting model that the state approved for a very limited basis. If a school chooses to convert that to a opening model, a phased-in opening model, that would meet our understanding of the state's guidance document and would qualify them to then open up regardless if the county went to purple.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your comments and the information and for your efforts. Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you, Supervisor Maggard and Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Zach. I have some comments too, but Supervisor Gleason has piped in. So, Supervisor?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it. Matt, great job. Appreciate all you're doing.
Thank you.
Talk to me about vaccines.
Yes. So we have been working very thoroughly and often with the California Department of Public Health on the vaccine distribution plan. It is a plan that we are putting together collectively with all the other counties in California. And of course, California then is dependent on the federal government for a similar plan. There is a phased-in approach where individual providers would be registered and then approved. And once the shipments are ready, they would be distributed directly to local providers. And then the state is developing a priority list of those groups based on health condition or occupation that would be given priority on the initial vaccine distribution.
Are you satisfied with how complete that plan is?
It is still being developed, but I have been impressed with its thorough nature, and it's a consistent approach that we use with other vaccines, yes.
So our role in the distribution of vaccine, once it becomes available, is well into the development stage, and you're confident by the time that the vaccine becomes real and comes down the pipeline to us, we'll be ready to go immediately and immediately start distributing those vaccines?
Yes, sir.
Talk to me about upstream of that is Pfizer and the news that came out that drove the stock market crazy yesterday. Talk to me about that.
Well, we read the news like you did, that it was 90% effective, which is far greater than most other vaccines and was greater than expected. I think that's great news, and in fact, that would really help tremendously on controlling the disease. I have no more information than what we read in the news yesterday. We do have routine meetings with the California Department of Public Health, but most of those are on logistics. So we're excited to hear. We're anxious.
So the question I know you can't answer, but is, Pfizer comes out on Sunday and says they have a 90% positive lab or experiment, and things look really good. And is there anything you can take from that to suggest when that vaccine, if it continues in the track it's on, would become available?
No, I don't have any.
How do we get that information?
The federal government is developing timelines. We had some initial draft timelines of November that we've since obviously passed. We don't have any updated timelines. I know this is a significant priority. We are not waiting. We are going to ensure that our plan is developed and that we have our providers pre-registered and ready to go. As you probably heard, there's some requirements on storage where the vaccine has to be stored at an unusually cold temperature, -70 degrees Celsius. The length of time it can be stored is limited. So there are some logistical issues that we're trying to work through now so that once it's here, we're ready to go on day one.
So any member of the public who's watching us today and listening to you talk read the newspaper and knows as much as you and I know, what that means in terms of when that vaccine becomes available, whether it's next week, next month, next year, 6 months. Do we have any idea on the normalcy of how that translates from a 90% concept to an injection in someone's arm?
No, sir. We don't have an updated timeline.
Can we get that?
We've asked, of course. We've asked the state's asked the federal government. We don't have an update.
Talk to me about therapeutics. I heard that Lilly came out this morning with some very successful, I think it was therapeutics. Talk about that.
Supervisor Gleason, I am not as informed. We probably should talk to some local physicians that would provide a better understanding of therapeutic treatment.
There seems to be hope right around the corner here, that things are looking, that we are progressing. We're going through this tough times, but there's something on the horizon that gives us hope.
Yes, sir.
And reason for optimism that we're going to get out of this soon.
Hopefully.
Soon. I don't know what the word soon means. Okay, I didn't want to put you on the spot because I know that that's not your swing zone, but you're as close as we can get to someone that's. So if you could find out a little bit more about therapeutics, I think you're going to come back next week. If you could find out more about that, and I hope you come back next week with some good news, like we're staying right where we are.
Yes, sir.
Or progressing positively.
Okay.
And appreciate you and your team, everything you do, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gleason, thank you. Matt, you know, it is really, really frustrating that it appears as if we wear masks, we will be out of this sooner rather than later. So I'm just like, want to pull my hair out at how complicated this appears to be when it really is quite simple. So I think we confuse people, Matt. We confuse them by moving into a better tier. People are so desperate to believe that everything is okay. Okay, it's not good. And it's not your fault, and this is, you know, once in a century pandemic has put us all on our heels, no doubt. But it seems to me that we need some kind of incentive. I don't know if people can get a 10% discount at the store if they wear their mask. I mean, I don't know what it is, but people are confused. The tiers confuse people. They think we're okay. Everybody hates the mask. I hate the mask. It is what it is. So I think there's confusion there, and people want to feel as though we're moving through. I think we've got to be creative about that, Matt. And you know, we have to do that as a society. I've showed some of those businesses are putting up things in their windows, but I believe we need a clear message, especially from our leaders, Matt, that this is very simple. If we wear the mask, we're going to get through it. We're close to a vaccine. I trust Pfizer. The world trusts Pfizer, right? I think that's the best we can get. So I just want so desperately to urge our leaders in this community to carry that message forward, that we all hate it. But we are American brothers and sisters, and we need our businesses to thrive, and we need our people to feel hopeful about the future, or we have nothing to build on. So help me with that, Matt, please, because I just think we've confused people. And, you know, I don't want to blame the public when we haven't been consistent, and that it is a simple, right within our power thing to do. However you feel about vaccines, however you feel about the election, we don't do that in here. This is public health, right?
Yes, ma'am. We're tired. We're tired of wearing masks. We're tired of missing our family. We're tired of this. We're exhausted. But so what? We need to do what's right.
That's right.
We need to use preventative measures. We need to not lose ground. It's worked. Let's get through this. When you wear a mask, you're wearing it to protect that other person, that checker at the grocery store, or the person at the convenience store, or the friend you saw on the street. It protects them. You think you're too tough to wear a mask? Well, you're not doing that. You're protecting somebody else. So wearing a mask is a sign of respect. That's why we do it. And it's important. We know this will work. The numbers showed it worked. Let's not lose ground. Let's continue the message. We got an uphill battle coming again. We'll get through it. Kern County does this really well. We care about ourselves. We're going to protect ourselves. We know what needs to be done. Yes, it's tough. Yes, it's awful timing with Thanksgiving and Christmas and all of our holidays, but so what? We're going to get through it, and we're going to do what's best. And yes, we might have to put off what we want to do on Thanksgiving. But when you walk through the ICU at Kern Medical and look at those individuals that are just barely hanging on to life, that's what drives it home. This is real, and we need to make sure we're healthy. And if we have to be a little inconvenienced for a few months, so what? Let's get through it, let's do it, and we'll be better for it on the end of it. But we have some work ahead of us. We can do it.
Matt, thank you so very much. Appreciate you. And I believe in Kern County. I really do. It's why I'm here. I know you do too, Matt.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on. If we
Madam
have,
Chair, may I add one more thing?
I'm sorry, I saw you were there, Mike. My apologies.
No problem.
Mick, were you done?
Yes, on this topic.
Got it. Supervisor Maggard.
Thank you very much. I thought it might be useful to just touch on two more things. When Surgeon General Jerome Adams was here, he revealed to us some of the background on what's happening with the vaccine development. And one of the reasons that they've spent so much money, and this is not a political issue, this is an American issue. I appreciated what Chairwoman Perez said a moment ago about that. This is an American issue, and Americans are moving along parallel paths to develop this vaccine in numerous strategies at the same time, and they are spending enormous sums of money to prepare to be able to distribute this vaccine, preparing millions and millions of doses of the vaccine. And it may be that if there are 5 companies, it may be that 4 of those companies are completely thrown away because they want everyone to be prepared right up to the very last moment. So I think that's just encouraging. We're seeing evidence of that playing out. It was just so revelatory when he was here to give us some insight as to what's going on behind the scenes. And remember how much he emphasized to wear our masks. That's just important for us to be able to hear people say. I had an interesting conversation over the weekend with somebody that works at CVS. And CVS has received, as if, I haven't spoken to the chairperson of the CVS company, but my understanding is that CVS has received, been charged with preparing to accommodate this vaccine when it arrives. So they are installing these deep, I don't know if freezer is the right word, but that can accommodate the requirements of this. So, it isn't just that, I don't want people to think that we are just waiting for the next shoe to drop. There are strategies at play all around us, both in Kern County and across our country, to try to do this as quickly as possible. And I am heartened by that. There have been moments in this process that I've worried that, does anybody know what we're doing? But as we are becoming more aware of it, as we're getting our arms more around this disease, it is also clear now that we are sparing no expense and squandering no opportunity to be able to do this both locally and nationally. So I'm heartened by that, and I thought it would be helpful to just hear a little bit of affirmation for that for the public. Wear our masks. Thank you.
Supervisor Maggard, thank you for your leadership. And Matt, maybe we have to ask Sean Penn to come back. Help us with the vaccine distribution. He offered to come back, and maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. But certainly, we can leverage outside resources to help us, be clever and kind of cool too, right? There's nothing wrong with that, right? Mike, again, thank you. Zach, thank you for both of your service on the ad hoc. I think you guys have done an exceptional job. We're going to move on to item number 22.
Excuse me, board member announcements.
Forgive me.
Happy birthday, United States Marine Corps.
Ah, very nice. How many years? Two. Wow, outstanding. Well, God bless their service. Yes. Oh, I'm Supervisor David Couch. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you guys covered it all.
Okay, great. Thanks. Okay. Good morning. Welcome. Nice to see both of you. This item is number 22, which is Behavioral Health and Recovery Services. Proposed construction of 2 psychiatric health facilities and a request for authorization to secure financing. Mr. Bill Walker, nice to see you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Bill Walker, Director of Kern Behavioral Health and Recovery Services, joined by Deputy Director Robin Taylor. Before you use item number 22 on your agenda, the proposed approval of construction of 2 psychiatric health facilities, or PUFs, and the request for the authorization to secure financing. This item was last before your board in September. At that time, the board asked to postpone a decision pending current BHRS meetings with key stakeholders and board members to provide details, obtain feedback, and answer any questions. Some of those key stakeholders have submitted letters, both in support and some with concern, and some are prepared to make statements after our presentation today. Here this morning to present a PowerPoint on the PUF project is Deputy Director Robin Taylor. Ms. Taylor has been project lead from the point of inception. At her conclusion, I will make closing remarks before turning back to the Madam Chair. Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, Bill. Is my mic on? It is? Okay, thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Behavioral Health and Recovery Services request your board's approval for the construction of 2 new PUFs, or psychiatric health facilities. The adult PUF will provide psychiatric inpatient treatment for 16 adults. The minor PUF will provide psychiatric inpatient treatment for 16 minors. Before your board today, BHRS is seeking board authorization to proceed with the release of the request for statement of qualifications and subsequent release for the request for proposals to choose a design build entity. BHRS also requests authorization of the Chief General Services Officer to distribute and authorize the financing plan. This is a preliminary estimate for $25,480,000 for the project cost. This is a not-to-exceed amount in the design-build process. Previous 2019 and 2020 actions taken by your board on this project include approving the request for proposal award for the contracting operator, making this a public-private partnership, approving the consulting agreement for the design, purchase of the land, and approving the RFP award and agreement for the construction management and bridging architect. BHRS, as the county's mental health plan, is responsible for the Welfare and Institution Code 5150 process, inclusive of inpatient psychiatric services. Kern County has 4 in-county owner-operator inpatient psychiatric facilities: Kern Medical Hospital, Good Samaritan Hospital, Crestwood Behavioral Health PUF, and Bakersfield Behavioral Health Care Hospital. Please note that our largest 90-bed facility is our only minor provider in Kern County, and they are currently unable to bill Medi-Cal for ages 22 to 64. This slide highlights the utilization of crisis services and inpatient psychiatric care. In fiscal year 1920, BHRS has provided extensive services to adults and minors. And over the last 3 fiscal years, BHRS has seen a substantial increase in services for our mobile evaluation team, our crisis stabilization units, our crisis walk-in clinic, and inpatient psychiatric care. The previous 2 slides really illustrated our current capacity and utilization of inpatient psychiatric services. It is clear that there is a need for an increase in inpatient psychiatric beds for adults and minors. This is in addition to our current providers we are already utilizing. The addition of the 2 new PUF facilities as private-public partnerships will ensure an increase in inpatient capacity. These PUFs will provide additional beds, 16 adults and 16 minors. It'll provide enhanced oversight for inpatient psychiatric services for adults and minors. As a public-private partnership, the beds in a county-owned building allow for enhanced oversight of bed use. It'll enhance and improve flow stability, so we'll have a bed when. Is it on? Fiscally responsible with county funds. PUFs have the lowest bed day rates for inpatient services in California, while inpatient units on medical hospitals have some of the highest bed day rates. In addition, a 16-bed PUF can bill Medi-Cal. And establish a Kern Medical BHRS UCLA Kern Minor Fellowship Clinic rotations. This will assist in trainings, recruitment, and retention of quality psychiatrists in Kern County. The project will be funded through financing, and as a reminder for the board, BHRS is the specialty mental health managed care plan and provider of services in Kern County. As the plan, BHRS will make payments with federal and state administrative funds and realignment funds. BHRS has been working with the auditor, the CAO, and the state controller to ensure BHRS is able to fund the construction without general fund dollars. The state controller has established a mechanism that ensures the allocation of capital cost is made to federal and state programs, and the financing will be structured so it does not reduce the county's debt capacity, and the new facilities do not mandate or commit the board to increase the general fund contribution or maintenance of effort. I'm going to now hand it back to Bill Walker.
Thank you, Robin. Just a few more comments. First off, the public-private partnership. What we are doing is owning the land and owning the facility. And we have contracted through an external RFP already adjudicated for a vendor, and that vendor has been helping us develop the plans for this facility itself. This provides the county with much more direct operational oversight and influence in the day-to-day operations. The PUF project, through the county RFP awarding process, has therefore partnered with an operating vendor, Telecare, that has a proven multi-state track record of success operating evidence-based crisis and inpatient programs. We have partnered with a premier architect firm, Vanier, and the operating vendor, architect, general services, and Kern BHRS have worked together to develop the building to meet the Department of Healthcare Services requirements and best safety practice guidelines. The county has already spent $2.7 million and countless meetings and design hours to get to the point now of building the facilities. The current owner-operator facilities contractor with Kern BHRS will remain and be supported, and in some cases expand county-related services. However, the PUF project is the best path to achieve the expanded psychiatric inpatient needs of our constituents. A couple of primary issues have been brought to me recently. One is, why don't we have a private sector a company build this and not use our own dollars? Well, I would tell you that there is no free lunch. The building of the facility must be recouped in some manner. If we build it, it's recouped through the monthly payment, just like we make a house payment to pay off the loan for the money to build the facility. If another entity builds it, they have to recoup that in their bed day rate, which is paid monthly when you actually pay for every patient. Earlier on one of the slides, you heard Robin tell you that through our research, building PUFs is the least expensive patient rate. Having our own psychiatrist that we in our Kern Medical Center and us have that residency program, by providing our own psychiatrist, that's also a reduced cost. Currently, the difference between our 2 hospital bed day rates and our PUF rates is between $500 and $800 a day, of which part of that we actually would pay. So when I say there is no free lunch, if someone else built it, they still have to recoup those dollars. We've also been asked why we're not using a facility that has excessive beds. All the other facilities, all but one facility, have all of their beds currently being used. The one facility that doesn't is BBHH, and as you saw on the slide, because they changed their licensing without noticing us, they cannot bill Medi-Cal under the current license that they have, which means that every adult patient we put in that facility, we have to pay out of county realignment dollars the entire cost. That would be like you or me going to a doctor, and when we hand them our insurance card, instead of a copay, they ask for $200 cash. It is that kind of arrangement. Related to minors, there is only one minor facility and there are 4 adult facilities. It is important to have more than one choice to serve minors for various reasons, such as the ability to get into a particular facility at a particular time, how their staffing ratios or doctor coverage is working. Kern BHS has charted a bold path of expansion to serve the most needy people of our community. This path was not chosen and developed from the onset without transparency and consideration of all alternatives. All current vendors were noticed of every RFP and every step of this process. I'd like to thank General Services and Jeff Hill for their involvement in countless hours in helping us get to the place we are. Telecare and Vanier, the 2 current vendors that are helping us, and Elsa and the CEO's office for helping us develop the financing plan. Madam Chair and members of the Board of Supervisors, this concludes our presentation. I thank you in advance, and of course, we are available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go first to Supervisor Maggard. That's from this time, Supervisor, or last time? Forgive me. Thank you. Do you have any other presentation at this time?
I know that there are people on the phone, but for our presentation, no. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we'll take public comment, and then we'll close public comment and see if we have answers from our experts here, and then we'll come to the board, as I know the board has some questions as well. So, Kathy?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. We do have some speakers waiting to address your board. The first speaker is Dr. Mohammed Molla. Dr. Molla, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you may address the board.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, respected Chair and Board of Supervisors, for this opportunity to speak before you. My name is Mohammed Molla, M-O-H-A-M-M-E-D-M-O-L-L-A. I'm interim joint chair of the Department of Psychiatry at Kern Medical and at Kern Behavioral Health and Recovery Services. I'll focus on two important points to address the need of this long-desired psychiatric health facility we are seeking for your approval today. Kern Medical and Kern BHRS are dedicated to educate trainees who will provide care in our community when they graduate from here. Fellows from our Child and Adolescent Psychiatry Fellowship Program has significantly addressed this need for our minors by joining our community after graduating from our fellowship. Our residents and fellows are trained to practice in community setting, but they are lacking in training in child and adolescent psychiatry inpatient unit in a community setting, which is a significant gap in training for someone to graduate and practice in the community. Having psychiatric health facility as proposed by Kern BHRS will address that need. This training cannot just happen in any institution, and it is important to note that the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education, which is ACGME, has specific requirements, and UCLA that we work with very closely has specific expectation. So this training can be provided at the proposed psychiatric health facility under supervision of UCLA Kern Psychiatry Training Program, that the program we run at Kern Medical and with Kern BHRS, and also they're all UCLA faculty. I also want to end this by saying that how our community will be benefiting having this proposed PUF. The PUF proposed by Kern BHRS will significantly add an additional layer of improved care that we all want to provide to our adults and minors in our community. It is not unusual for us to look for beds in academic settings, especially for minors when they need very specialized care. Sometimes we try to look for beds somewhere down south or up north for that kind of specialized care in academic setting. Having an inpatient adolescent unit in the PUF proposed by Kern BHRS will address this need, as this unit will be in an academic setting and staffed by academic program and UCLA faculty from our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is T.R. Miracle, Chief Probation Officer. Chief Miracle, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you may address the board.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. T.R. Miracle, Chief Probation Officer. As you know, probation supervises adults and juvenile offenders in the community. We also operate 3 juvenile facilities here in Kern County. As chief, I recognize the vital role that mental health treatment plays in maintaining a safe and healthy environment for youth to learn from their mistakes and grow. As a result, we have a long-standing partnership with Kern BHRS. I've been with probation for over 23 years, and I've seen a sharp increase in the number and intensity of mental health cases during my career. There are times youth suffer from acute symptoms where we cannot provide the appropriate level of support in our facilities. This is not good for our staff, the other youth, and especially for the youth suffering during these episodes. On several occasions, there has not been adequate capacity in the community for these youth. This causes major issues for my facility, as the youth either has to stay at juvenile hall or at Mary Kay Shell with my staff reassigned there. I appreciate Kern BHRS's proactive thinking to increase and diversify capacity. This is an issue that will not go away, but the better prepared we are, the more successful we will be in dealing with this issue and making positive impacts in the lives of those we serve. Based on my comments, I am in support of this item and hope you will vote to approve. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. Baga. Dr. Baga, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you may address the board.
Hello?
Hello, Dr. Baga, welcome.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
We can. Doctor, you're on.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Baga. I work with Good Samaritan Hospital, one of the county providers for inpatient mental health services. Thank you for your time, and thank you for hearing me. And I know time is short, and you guys have had a long morning, so I will keep myself from rambling too long. The Good Samaritan, I believe, has already submitted an official letter that details all of the stuff that I'm going to say, or most of the details of what I'm going to briefly touch on. So I'm not going to bore you with the details. You have the letter, so if you want to review it, please feel free to. So obviously I work at Good Samaritan Hospital. I'm one of the psychiatrists. I'm also the program director of a residency program. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Robin and for Bill Walker, and got to hear from Dr. Mullis today. That was very nice. So I understand the needs. I understand where they're coming from. And I just want to thank them for the hard work that they do, because they treat some of the most sick patients in the county. So I just want to start by telling everybody that I think they do a wonderful job, so they should be commended for that. Moving on to the PUF project, I wasn't very involved in a lot of this stuff in the beginning. I just recently got involved, and as I looked more into it, I think this project was started or conceptualized, I believe, 3 years ago. As we've been hearing all morning, a lot's happened in the last 3 years. A lot of things have changed. Something called COVID happened. The homelessness has gone skyrocketing up. And so a lot of things have changed, and I just want to make sure that the board is making the most informed decision for December or November of 2020, rather than a decision that may have been made in 2017 or 2018. There's a psychological principle, and not to go all teacher on you, but it's called the psychological principle of escalation of commitment, or some people call it the sunk cost fallacy, and it's where you keep putting money into something that you've already invested into because you're afraid that you're going to lose your investment, and you're not seeing that you may end up losing more than what you had initially bargained for, and you don't completely take current evidence into account. In the last 3 years, the relationship with Good Samaritan Hospital is different. The number of beds available at Good Samaritan Hospital were different. The relationship that we've developed with the county, I mean, I am constantly in conversation 3-4 times. We have a staff member who has a direct line, and the county can call and ask about beds. And so the landscape has changed significantly, so I'm requesting that any money that's going to be spent, and just to clarify, it took a little bit of digging for me to kind of understand, and it took some math for me to understand how the how the county was going to pay for this. And just to clarify, so that everybody is aware, I believe the payment is going to be coming from a loan, and the loan will hopefully be repaid through realignment dollars, Medi-Cal billing, and something called the IMD exclusion. And so $25 million, especially nowadays, isn't a small amount of money. And as we've been hearing all morning, there may be other places that $25 million could be better spent. And in the letter that you have, we've detailed some alternative solutions, and Good Sam is willing to partner with that. And as Bill said, I believe he said there's no free lunch, and he's absolutely right, there is no free lunch, but a lunch that may cost 1/3 or 1/4 of what may cost somebody else is a lot cheaper lunch to pay for. And so listening to him was enlightening, but also just wanted to clarify that, I mean, as you can see in the letter, the ability of Good Samaritan through their contracting partnerships and everything can be a lot more helpful than we would have been 2 or 3 years ago when this proposal was initially made. And for me, at least personally, taxpayer dollars is taxpayer dollars. And so if there's a facility or if there are community partners that are willing to take on that burden, and especially nowadays, because we don't know how COVID is going to be, we don't know what fiscal impact it's going to have. And if there are community partners that are willing to step up and help alleviate that burden, I think that merits a second look. I think there may be other uses of that money. So I work on the front lines of Good Samaritan. I see patients. I mean, in fact, after this meeting, I have several patients waiting for me at Good Sam that need detox and that need psychiatric help. So being on the front lines, I see a lot of things that we could be doing different. And if there's money that's available to be spent, I think it should be spent on things that are more interdisciplinary, that treat medical issues and substance use issues and homelessness and social issues and everything all together, lowering the barrier to entry for patients who need it. And it's going to help the community more than potentially adding yet another facility. And then to Dr. Mullah's point, Dr. Mullah is a brilliant psychiatrist. I have nothing but respect for him. And I know where he's coming from. He's coming from a point of he wants the ability to have residents stay in the community, be hired in the community, and train them in the community in a way that he has some oversight of. And he is tremendously well respected. And in fact, we have residents at Good Samaritan as we speak right now. We had talked several months ago about ECT and starting residency, so I'd be happy to work with him. And I'm sure Good Sam and the rest of the community partners would be happy to work with him to expand and grow and develop the psychiatry residency program. So just, I know I'm rambling again, so I apologize, supervisors. But I think the strength of Kern County comes from its community partners. And so we have community partners that are willing to step up, and there are potential ways to save lots of money that can be used in better ways. So I'm going to request that you reconsider approving this request until better alternatives and initiatives can be taking place, because I don't think the PUFs right now aligns with the initiatives that the county has set forth for itself. It doesn't align with state or federal recommendations, where everybody in the country and the state and everywhere is recommending increasing funding for places that will reduce hospitalizations and decrease the need for hospitalizations, not pouring more money into just making more hospital beds. So if we could use the money for that, I think the patients would be better off. More doctors would stay in the community. It would create a healthier environment. It'll help with homelessness. It'll help with the mental illness. It'll help with so many different things. And I think it starts with you guys, hopefully looking at this a new or fresher way and not falling into the fallacy of we've already spent this much money, so we have to go along with it. All of the money hasn't been spent, and $25 million is quite a lot. And that's where I'll stop. Thank you. I can answer any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you very much for your call and for your work in this community. Who else do we have, Kathy?
Madam Chair, we do have two more speakers. I wanted to, since Dr. Baga mentioned the correspondence, I wanted to just announce for the record that your board received a letter in support, actually 3 letters in support, one from Aging and Adult Services, one from Department of Human Services, and one from National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, Kern County. And you received 2 letters in opposition, one from Good Samaritan and the other from Bakersfield Behavioral Healthcare Hospital. Our next speaker is Jeff Chin, I believe representing Bakersfield Behavioral Healthcare Hospital. Mr. Chin, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you may address the board.
Board of Supervisors. My name is Jeff Chin. I'm the CEO at Bakersfield Behavioral. Dr. Baca had mentioned that he had that there was a letter from Good Samaritan, and you also should have our letter from the facility stating that we feel that the proposal for the 216-bed PUF should not go forward. We feel that the community partners, as Dr. Baga had mentioned, are available and willing to support the community and the mental health needs of the community. While Bill had mentioned that the funding sources for adults are a little different for us as opposed to the other facilities, the child and adolescent funding is matched through the state and federal processes. We do currently have 30 to 35 beds that are available for use at any given time. And because this additional capacity already exists in the community, we just are perplexed why the 216-bed facilities would be necessary. We are part of a group of hospitals that there's 16 across the country. Shortly, we will have 9 in the state of California. we have the largest number of psychiatric beds in the state of California. So we're willing to work with the county in whatever capacity needed. I think the private-public partnership is the best way to go. I know this had been proposed in 2017. This was prior to me even beginning my career at BBHH. So I don't know if we were involved in the RFP process or not, but I agree that I think that there are definite opportunities for a private-public cooperation to be able to meet the needs and not spend the $25 million in taxpayer money. As a resident of Kern County myself and a taxpayer, I would like to, just request that we look at other ways of, meeting the needs rather than spending this money. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to play the voice message. We received one voice message regarding this item. This message is from Robin Field with Kaiser Permanente. So we'll hear that voice message first, and then we'll hear our last speaker.
Thank you.
And I'm the Department of Kaiser Permanente Behavioral Health Services in Kern County. I'm commenting on item number 22 on the Board of Supervisors morning session agenda. We would like to submit our enthusiastic support of Kern Behavioral Health and Recovery Services proposal to build 2 inpatient psychiatric health facilities. The facilities would provide care to our most vulnerable in society, patients who require acute inpatient mental health services due to the severity of their conditions. There are at least 3 important ways in which these facilities would contribute to our community. Number 1, the facilities will be available to all patients regardless of payer, Medi-Cal, Medicare, or private insurance. Number 2, there will be separate units, one for adults and one for adolescents and children. Currently, there is only one other inpatient option for children in Kern County. And number 3, these facilities will provide care to patients who need to be hospitalized involuntarily due to having intent to harm themselves or someone else, or due to being gravely disabled. These facilities will also offer care to patients who are willingly hospitalized upon the recommendation of their physician. Historically, there has been a local shortage of inpatient psychiatric beds that we anticipate will only increase in the years to come. We applaud Kern Behavioral Health and Recovery Services for shouldering this responsibility and request you approve their construction plans. Thank you from Kaiser.
Thank you. Now, our last speaker is Michael Turnipseed, Kern County Taxpayers Association. Mr. Turnipseed, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you may address the board.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Good morning.
This
We
is
can hear
Michael
you.
Turnipseed representing. Hello?
Hello, we can hear you, Mike. Thank you.
Okay, good. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Michael Turnipseed representing the Kern County Taxpayers Association. Realistically, I've listened to all the testimony today and I've read up on this, and we've all known for decades, and I mean decades, of the lack of mental health treatment in this county. I see it walking our streets every day downtown where I work. 40% of our population is Medi-Cal, and if your largest facility with all those empty beds doesn't take Medi-Cal, that means 40% of the people who could be using it are left out in the cold. I agree wholeheartedly with Kaiser's analysis. I think they're right on point that you can't kick the ball down the road. We see the mental health problems all over our community, and we have to come up with creative ways to address them. Virtually every discussion I've read all over the country about police care says there's not adequate mental health resources to help the police address and have places to put the mentally ill. So from all that we've heard today, we support the drastic need for the county to make a decision and move forward today. No use waiting 3 more years or next month or 2 weeks from now, because no decision will be made then, and the need is evident all over our community. Thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss this today.
Thanks, Mike.
Madam Chair, members of the board, that concludes public comment on this item.
Another easy item. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is that end our public hearing portion of this item?
Yes, it does.
Okay, very good. I'm going to come back to Bill and ask if you want to briefly address any of the concerns raised, because we're going to probably have a lengthy discussion. So if anything you want to just drop in before we start, now would be a good time for that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A few comments I'd like to make. One is that although the initiation of this decision was 3 years ago, it has been an active planning process, including coming before the board, I think, on 4 or 5 occasions when different steps were being adjudicated. And so I'll just make that comment. The second comment is about what are we spending and how are we spending it? We don't have $25 million of taxpayer dollars that we're just going to spend. It is the course of the funding and spending and covering that cost across multiple years so that we are paying a portion each year that is sustained, even though our overall budget in Kern BHRS, like many budgets, is actually going down. When I talked about, one of the things I would point out is that I ran a psychiatric hospital before I became the crisis administrator for this county. I hired Robin because she was running one of the PUFs in this county before she became the crisis administrator, now the deputy director. This is our wheelhouse. And so the funding and the way we will spend the dollars is actually quite controlled. Another comment that was made was everyone's saying you should be reducing acute care. Mr. Turnipseed and the representative from Kaiser are quite correct that there are not enough acute beds in California, and we are wishing to try to address that for our county so that we will have enough beds for minors and adults in our county, and it does take a long time to build extra beds. But we have not only done that. Your mobile evaluation team, MET teams, are now 24/7. I am in regular conversation with the undersheriff about the best ways to coordinate both inside the jail services and outside the jail service and street services. We coordinate a crisis intervention team with both BPD and KCSO for street outreach. Supervisor Maggart, rightfully so, has called me to task for improving and adding more services directly to the street, which we have done through our homeless outreach team and increasing the funding for flood. So I just want to say we are actively on the front end of crisis, not just on the back end of crisis. I would also want to just add that although I very much appreciate and want to maintain the structures of contracts that we have, part of the reason by wanting to have more oversight is both of these facilities have gone through regular and active change, not always in the best interest of the county. BBHH, when they changed their license without informing us 5 years ago, from that point forward, every patient adult we put in there, we have to pay full fare for. They have had 5 CEOs in 5 years. And although I appreciate working with the current CEO, he's the current CEO for maybe a year. And so there's an instability that we would not have if we have oversight over our own facility. We very much appreciate Good Samaritan Hospital and Quia Delta, and they're bringing more psychiatrist services to the county as well, and look forward to making other projects with them. However, they've also changed from an adult unit to a geriatric unit and back to an adult unit, which is not always in the best interest of how we would operate our facilities. And that is the difference between an owner-operator and a public-private partnership. We would control dedicating those beds and how they would be dedicated, and we would have more oversight into the oversight of quality into those facilities. I think I'll stop there and say this is not a simple math equation, but we understand both the fiscal need and how to meet that fiscal need. We understand the community need, and we understand the quality need. And we are the we are working with vendors who have built facilities to the point that we're adding new safety features into these facilities. The other option, as Mr. Turnipseed had stated, would be to wait, to have conversations on facility plans that we've not seen vetted or sent to the Department of Healthcare Services. And I don't see that being in the best interest of Kern County. But I very much appreciate and want to continue working with these partners. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your retort. Gentlemen, not all at once, please. I don't see any of you plugged in. But I will say that we've closed the public hearing portion of this meeting and, of course, staff's presentation. Thank you for your hard work. So, Supervisor Gleason, there you are. Saved by the bell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it.
Of course, always.
I'm kind of all over the place here, Bill, so stay with me. First, I want to say how much I appreciate the Good Samaritan Hospital and BBHH and their role they play in Kern County. And I met with both Dr. Baga, another young lady who is an executive, I think, with the Good Sam, Minty
Dillon?
Yeah, wonderful, absolutely vitally interested in Kern County, and I'm just thankful. I want to preface everything with how fantastic it is having those organizations with us on this trip. Could you expand a little bit about the licensing issue at Good Sam? You said that they've made adjustments to their licensing, which precludes them from our full participation in our cases. Could you expand on that, Bill, please, so I can understand it a little better?
Yes, sir. Supervisor Gleason, through the chair. The licensing difference is actually Baker's Behavioral Health Hospital.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
And that facility, when they took over the hospital and purchased it, I want to say 5 years ago, they changed it to an acute psychiatric hospital. By license, that is what they call an IMD exclusion. What it means in English is that for the age of 23 to 64, they cannot bill Medi-Cal. There's an archaic federal regulation that we would love to see changed, but it states that if you were in one of these licensed facilities, Medi-Cal cannot be billed. So if we place an adult patient in their facility, we now have to pay the full roughly $1,000 a day out of some county funds because the federal dollar cannot be used.
Is that why they have 36 some odd empty beds, 30 to 35 empty available beds every day?
That's complex and probably a separate conversation with them would be helpful. But in running a psychiatric hospital, and I actually ran that particular location, you have to look at, do you have enough staff to operate all your units? Do you have enough nurses? Do you have enough doctors to do the admissions? We have struggled through the course of the year at times to get our admissions into the hospital, not because they don't have beds, but they didn't necessarily have an admitting physician, or they didn't have enough staffing for a unit. And so it's not as simple as, gee, if we just increase these beds. You have to increase everything.
Is Mr. Chin on the phone?
Yes, he is.
Mr. Chin, this is Supervisor Gleason. My question to you is, why is your licensing set up the way it is, and has there been any effort to be a broader approach to satisfying a broader customer base, if you know what I mean?
Mr. Chin, you'll need to unmute your phone by pressing *6.
I apologize.
Yep, got you now. Thank you.
Yes, as Bill had mentioned, there is a IMD exclusion, and based on our designation and our licensing status, that is true. However, that is for adults ages 22 to 64. That is not applicable to patients that are over 64 or under 22. So we have the availability to take those patients. We are also willing to look at contracting this would need to be a separate issue, but contracting for those 22 to 64-year-olds. The issue of not being able to fully staff the facility, we have those open beds because we are currently, if Kern BHRS does not send us patients, we are at a cap of taking out of county patients, so we can only take a certain number. So we are artificially constrained from being able to operate our 90 beds. So if we could hire the staff in the next few weeks and would be able to take as and fill our facility up.
Thank you, Mr. Chin. Bill, you got any thoughts on that?
Thank you, Supervisor, to the chair. A couple of thoughts on that. First, we don't constrain their out-of-county beds. If they wanted to admit more, we were on a call with them. We've been having calls with them, and we've made it very clear that we are not stopping them from taking out-of-county beds. We do need to coordinate that so that we know that those individuals get back to their county. Some of you may recall that we've had problems along those lines in the past. So this is an issue of coordination, not of restriction. Second, 2 weekends ago, we had a minor stay over 23 hours on our psychiatric evaluation center because we could not get the minor into their facility. And third, when he said we could contract for those 22 to 64-year-olds, what that means is that we would pay from a contract our dollars, just as I said. There's no contract and somehow the federal dollars will now pay. There is no going back. That is how all of their facilities are licensed. I get it, it's a business model. We just happen to have a much higher percentage of Medi-Cal than where most of their other hospitals are. I get that too. My last is that if we are not stopping them from having more minor beds right now, but our ability to have quality oversight and also our ability to have our residency program, which helps us recruit and train our residents here. Right now, for the minor rotation, our residents get sent out of the county. We pay that resident a salary out of the county. They're doing services that may even bill Medi-Cal out of the county. It's all loss. This will all stay within our county if we have our own residency program rotation to this PUF unit.
Who pays those residency costs?
Those costs are borne 50% by Kern Medical and 50% by Kern BHRS.
That's not county dollars.
Well, it's offset through Medi-Cal patient fees, it's offset partially through realignment dollars, but it's the dollars that come through healthcare to us specific. It doesn't come from like general fund realignment dollars.
$25 million, a lot of money. Dr. Baga was suggesting that there may be better ways to spend $25 million, and I totally respect that. But typically in government, it's not that easy, and usually that $25 million is only for construction of a PUF. Is that a correct statement, or is that $25 million you could spend in other ways?
The $25 million we spent over time could be spent in other ways. However, through the process of the way the loan works, and we do have Elsa Martinez here if more details about the financing come up, but the draw of the dollars through Medi-Cal billing and other offsets doesn't mean that we're going to pay. It's not like I'm going to take $25 million right now and spend that, or that I have it to spend on other programs. All programs include, can you pull federal match? Can you pull other monies? And then what do you actually spend of your own dollars over time? And so that the cost of the day rate with the cost of the added rate to pay your loan is still less than the cost of what we pay a medical hospital right now as a day rate. It is fiscally prudent.
Okay, which leads to my next question is, I talked to Dr. Baga. I mentioned the fact that I'm a believer in the private enterprise. I think things are typically much better done in private world than public world. As a rule, the smaller that public interface is, the better off it is for functionality and getting to the end zone as quickly as possible. I think you're suggesting to me right now that may not be true in this particular instance, because by going to a private enterprise, you're incurring additional regulatory costs that have to provide oversight into the operations of that private enterprise. Whereas if you take those operations and internalize them within the county, we may actually be more, your last thing you said was economically efficient, I think, is what you said. Is that true? Am I reading that right?
Sir, Supervisor, to the chair, I'd make a couple of comments. One is that we are both the plan and the provider. So for our county, for outpatient and inpatient, and by inpatient, it is only the psychiatric inpatient for involuntary care. We are not over their private business. We don't have any say to tell Kern Medical or Good Samaritan or BBHH, about their private market and what they take. But we are the plan and the provider, which means we provide some of the services now, and we are the plan that oversees to make sure it's done correctly. In outpatient, many of you have heard Child Guidance Clinic or College Community Services or Clinica Sierra Vista. These are all providers that we contract with. But you also have heard our homeless outreach team. These are our mobile evaluation team. So we do both. This is literally expanding a small portion into the inpatient side, so we just have both a footprint into the inpatient side as a provider, as well as the plan oversight. We will still have plan oversight of those facilities and our facilities as well. I'm not sure, Supervisor, if I answered your question well.
You did okay. My last question is this. Are we taking any business away from BBHH or Good Samaritan?
Thank you for that question, Supervisor, through the chair. No. As you saw from the slide that Robin presented to you, we expect that the market will continue to go up, not down. And issues like COVID and other issues have actually made the psychiatric market worse, meaning there's more demand. And so our prudent plan is to use the PUF primarily for Medi-Cal beneficiaries at the lowest cost. But the Kaisers and the Blue Crosses that may use other hospitals in addition to our services are still going to need those other hospitals. And we will still need those other hospitals, and we have absolutely no intention. Matter of fact, Thursday I'm meeting with Minty Dillon, and she's exactly as you presented her, and I think Dr. Baga, but at least Minty, and we're going to talk about other businesses that we want to advance into homelessness and joint medical, psychiatric, and substance abuse. And so even though we're on different places right now, we're going to keep working with them. We are going to keep sustaining them. We probably make more referrals to those facilities, to our psychiatric health, hundreds to up to 1,000 referrals a year, that they are able to draw down millions of dollars each facility because of the way we've structured our referral system. We're not turning back on them at all, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Bill.
Supervisor Gleason, those are excellent questions as usual. I'm reminded after 4 meetings, I'm really going to miss you. Thank you for your questions and for your concern in this area. It's very personal for many of us, and so we really appreciate being able to flesh out, in particular, the opportunity for more bed space, more treatment, a reduced stigma about issues that we know, are traumatizing American families, our neighbors everywhere. And since we don't talk about it, we have no clue the depth of it, which is a mistake, as we know. So, Mick, thank you. Gentlemen, I see Supervisor Scrivener is plugged in. Supervisor Scrivener, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Supervisor Gleason hit a lot of the questions that I had, but I wanted to just try to drill down on something specific. In regard to Bakersfield Behavioral Health Hospital, I understand the issues with the licensing. That's been something that you and I have spoken about over the years when they made that change. Well, did you say 5 years ago?
Yes, sir.
So is that right? But the Medi-Cal does pay for juveniles, and basically, so why were we not able to get that one juvenile that you referenced that we had, I guess, in our care for 23 hours? Why were we not able to get them into their facility if they take juveniles? We have reimbursement from Medi-Cal, and as they state, they have 30 to 35 bed capacity, or available is a better way to say it, 30 to 35 available beds on any given day. I'm confused by that. And which begs the question, why do we need more adolescent beds? Why do we need these 16 adolescent beds if they're sitting on 30 to 35 empty beds?
Supervisor Scrivener, through the chair, excellent questions. Starting with how someone could stay at the psych unit, at our psych unit, Psychiatric Evaluation Center, over 23 hours if they have that many beds. A facility sets up a unit to provide the right care for a population. And so that particular hospital has more than one unit. And they may have a whole unit closed down. So even though they theoretically have those beds, today or this weekend, they may not even have that unit staffed. And so you have to start with what beds do they have going into that day or that weekend. And we monitor that back and forth. You know, I think one of the callers talked about, you know, there's a daily call, multiple daily calls to know how many beds do you have. Also, facilities like to be full. And so if I'm staffing to a census of 15 adolescents, for example, and I have 15 beds full, I'm at maximum capacity. I may not have a doctor or the right staffing to actually bring in another patient. And that happens quite frequently. One of the issues that we plan on doing with our PUF is that going into the weekend, we hold a ceiling so that we're only about 80% full. So through the weekend, we don't end up having people stay and then not be able to move them into facilities. That's not something we get, you know, we've tried to get it, but it's not something we're able to get with our current vendor structure. And so we track every day, 365 days a year, for years, every patient we move, where we've moved them, and how long it takes for them to accept the patient. I was handed that we've had 61 minors so far this fiscal year stay over the 23-hour limit on our Psychiatric Evaluation Center as we were trying to get them admitted into BBHH. Certainly they could expand. You know, certainly they could. But the track record with the number of changes they've had and our desire, what they didn't tell you is that they've had to bring in out-of-county and out-of-state doctors because the local doctor systems are not operating there and won't operate there. They've left. And so our ability to work with them, get patients in there, has always been a struggle. And so the need to have a dedicated county owner-operator with a secure vendor that we know we can maintain through our own psychiatric systems, the right doctor care is just imperative to us.
Okay, thank you for that. On to Good Sam. So with Good Samaritan, they are, if we refer patients to them, there is reimbursement through the Medi-Cal.
Yes, sir.
And so what, can you speak to the issues as far as their capacity as you see it and why these 16 additional adult beds are necessary in your view with the PUF?
Yes, sir, great question. So their capacity is limited to 21 beds. I think on most days, we keep them fairly full. Sometimes their census is a little lower because they're doing special one-on-ones and things like that. But we both, I think, would be in agreement that we keep them fairly full. There has been some discussion if some of their other beds can be converted to psych and med psych, and where we've really tried to land with them, because they are a medical hospital, is to expand medical detox with their hospital side beds so that we start developing, and we've been working with them in discussion on this for some months. But my best case would be they keep their 21 beds that are already licensed and we keep them full. They expand on medical detox, and we've also talked to them about expanding a separate facility for a skilled nursing facility in psych, but that's a separate issue. But I see our market share with them increasing on the medical psych side, of which only they and Kern Medical can do that. And I think that's where we will grow with them.
And will that be the topic of your discussions with them coming up here shortly? I think you referenced that you be talking to them soon about this.
Thank you, Supervisor. Thursday is our next meeting with them, and we are, I realize I am personally leaving, but we are setting up a leadership level meeting that we really haven't been having with that facility that is more at the Dr. Baga, Minty Dillon, and Amandeep, who's their director over their inpatient coverage, to flesh out the medical detox side and some other opportunities with them.
Okay. And then lastly, you talked about, I believe, a residency component to these two puffs. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that and how that works and why this facility is helpful in that regard for a residency program?
Thank you, Supervisor Scrivener, through the chair. I think it may be 15 to 20 years ago that Kern BHRS, then the mental health department, and Kern Medical brought a residency program and joined with UCLA. Those doctors, we have a fellowship for minors, which is a residency program, and we have an adult residency program. We don't have a rotation for those residents, the minor residents in Kern County. Now, to be a minor resident means that you've already gone through a full residency. So you've gone to college, you've also gone to medical school and you're a doctor, you've done a 4-year residency program, and now you're gonna do a 2-year program for child and adolescent. And we don't have a residency rotation in Kern County because Kern Medical doesn't operate a minor unit. This gives us, as Dr. Mola, who's the current Joint Chair, said, the place to put the best doctors in Kern County, who are the doctors who run the minor residency program, in charge of the psychiatric services. And as he said, instead of sending our toughest minors somewhere else where there's a learning and teaching hospital, we become that. We become a residency inpatient facility with the best of the best, joined with UCLA, joined with Kern Medical, joined with this PUF, joined with the residency program. And that doesn't exist at this time.
Okay, and to Supervisor Gleason's question about how that's paid for, you say that's paid through the various payer mixes, Medi-Cal, et cetera, to support the residency program?
Yes, sir. We cover half and Kern Medical covers half, but most of it is offset through patient fees and billing, we are going to pay those residents no matter what. So literally overall, we think that we'll be able to get, some reduction in overall costs. But again, that's not the top selling point that I have for you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Zach, for your excellent questions as usual. Supervisor Maggard, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to first ask a question of Elsa Martinez. Thank you, Ms. Martinez, for coming to the microphone.
Good morning, Elsa.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Hold one sec, you're not on. Elsa, can you state your name, please, and good morning to you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Elsa Martinez with the County Administrative Office.
Good morning, Ms. Martinez. I miss that we can't see each other smile at each other. I'm sorry that that's the case with these blasted masks that we must wear. But thank you for coming forward. Let me ask you a couple questions. So I just want to reiterate the implications upon the borrowing capacity of the county that will result from using the county's borrowing capacity to facilitate this $25.5 million roughly loan on behalf of behavioral health.
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, we have several options, and let me explain to you the kind of borrowing the county does. There is what we call general obligation borrowing, which is based on the capacity and it has to be approved by the board. What we do, and we have done in the past with all our county facilities, is what we call lease financing. So what we do is we either use an existing facility or the constructed facility to borrow, and the lease payments, in this case made by behavioral health, is what pays the debt service. There's always the perception that the capacity is diminished because the county is borrowing money, but from a legal and a structured capacity, the way we structure the debt is more like leasing rather than debt.
Much like my home is the collateral for the loan on my home when I purchased it many years ago. we use facilities of the county as collateral for those loans, is that correct?
That is correct. We do have the option to use an existing facility, or we have the option of using the facility that is being constructed.
So during the construction phase of this project, would that be the only county asset that would be encumbered? Or would there be some other county asset that would be encumbered until the facility is completed and then the encumbrance would transfer to these two facilities?
You are correct, Supervisor Margaret. That's one of the options. We can use an existing facility during the construction period so that we don't have to capitalize interest and save some money. And then we can, at the end of the construction period, we can swap the facilities to the constructed facility.
So the county has numerous assets, building structures, some of which are encumbered, I think today, and some of which are not. Does it affect our ability to encumber other assets to secure financing if our other assets are indeed, or one of them may be indeed, encumbered because of this project?
You are correct. If we use an existing facility, then we are encumbering that facility at least through the construction period, and we would not be able to use that facility for other projects during that period. We do have the option, as I mentioned, to use the constructed facility from day one. We would just there would have to be what we call capitalized interest, which is a little bit more expensive for the construction period, but that ability is there. We have been working on options. We have about 6 options that we would bring back to the board. We are trying to find the least expensive and the one that provides more flexibility for the county in case the county has to borrow for other projects in the future.
So if asset building, whatever, XYZ, is encumbered while this is in construction, does that affect our ability to potentially encumber that building for some other need that the county may have during this process?
Yes, you can only encumber it once.
Yes. So I just want our board to have our eyes wide open. There is an implication on our ability to borrow as a result of this. Now, once it's built and it becomes the collateral for that, then that asset will be at risk for it. Is that? I realize I'm saying the same thing again, but.
That is one of the options.
Okay. So what happens if the project, it's $25,480,000, I think, right, Robin? Thank you. So $25,480,000. What happens if the project comes in higher than that? Who bears the risk for the additional dollars?
So the way that the project is being constructed, and General Services can provide your board more information, is a design build, similar to the jail project, where you set a dollar not to exceed, and then the RFP and the comes back where they build you a facility at your dollar value. At that type of design, the risk is with the contractor.
Well, I don't remember every element of the jail, but as I recollect, the jail came in higher than we thought it would, and
it came lower, actually.
Lower than we did. Okay, very good. So that's great news. Is that possible we can get that here?
Well, I mean, I don't want to speak for the contractors, but I'm hoping they come back with a great design at a lower price.
Ms. Kaler, you are not going to run off and retire in the next couple of years as we let you manage this for us, are you? Good, good. We're grateful for that. Okay, and the amount of interest that we're going to incur, as Mr. Walker talked about, using the reimbursement rate that we receive from Medi-Cal and others to pay this fee. Not only is it the cost of construction, but it's the cost of the capitalization, the interest that we carry on it. What is roughly the amount of interest that we will incur over the course of the project by using county dollars as opposed to private dollars?
So unless somebody has $25 million sitting with no interest, I think we're all going to incur interest. It really going to depend, Supervisor Maggard, on the term. We have looked at 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. If you're looking at a 20-year term, and please keep in mind that I ran these projections a while back and the interest rates have changed. We were looking at total borrowing, and this is a high number. We were looking at total borrowing of 37, let me make sure I give you the correct number. Total borrowing of 32 million at the time, and the total interest and net payments were gonna be $39 million with a 20-year. if we were going to 25 years, we were looking at, make sure I have the right. 25-year, we were looking at 43 million. If we were going as far as 30 million, at 49 million. So it really depends on the term and the interest rate at the time we issued the debt. I think interest rates have come down a little bit, and we have, as I mentioned, and this includes capitalizing the interest, which is a little bit higher if we don't use an existing facility. So we will be back with some options for your board if you choose to approve this project, which, again, the intent is to lower the costs to the county.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Martinez. I appreciate you coming forward to answer my questions about that. The board letter that Mr. Walker presents to us today indicates strong support from Kern Medical. Is Russell Judd available to talk with us for a moment?
I don't believe I talked to him yesterday, and I think he said he was not available this morning.
Is that the case, Ms. Kraus?
He has not called in, so I don't have him in the queue.
Okay, we'll see. If he calls in, maybe we can
Okay,
slide it.
I will have staff see if we can reach him and confirm that.
One of the issues I'm interested in asking him about is if half the cost of the care for patients in these facilities is borne by by behavioral health, and I think Mr. Walker said the other half is covered by the hospital. I want to know what the implications are upon the hospital for that.
Supervisor, I think I can answer that question. If
I'd like to hear it from Mr. Judd, but go ahead.
The cost that we borne together is the payment for the psychiatrists who are residents. They wouldn't be paying half of the cost or any cost of the facilities that we're coming before you today for.
Yeah, I recognize they wouldn't pay for the cost of the facility. It's the cost of caring for the patients, right?
They cover half of, through the chair, sir, they cover half of the cost of the salary of the residents.
Okay, if Mr. Judd becomes available, Ms. Kraus, would you make me aware of that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Let's talk for a moment about the availability of those beds at the youth facility for, and whether or not there's capacity at Bakersfield Behavioral Health, and if that capacity is or is not available for our use. So I don't know if that's a reflection on Bakersfield Behavioral Health, or if that's a reflection upon our county behavioral health department for not managing that capacity. So can you talk to me about that, Mr. Walker?
Certainly, Supervisor, through the chair. Bakersfield Behavioral Health Hospital is a private hospital. They admit patients that we send them primarily from our psychiatric health facility or our PEC CSU, but they also admit clients, and we've allowed them to admit clients from other counties, primarily 5150s transported across county lines. So at any given time, the bed availability there is based on how many patients they've accepted and where they've accepted them from. In addition, they have an open walk-in waiting room, meaning that patients of private care or voluntary patients can walk in and self-admit. So their capacity to accept our clients, certainly they could, if they wanted to operate another adolescent unit, they could, if they had the ability to staff it, had doctors to do those admissions. It would still not allow us to have our residency program oversee that and some of the other advantages we would have through this other program.
Control is an issue that you've made crystal clear to me that you are attempting to gain over this process. Do we not have control over the response that we would get from Bakersfield Behavioral Health Hospital through the contract that we have with them?
Thank you, sir, through the chair. No, we do not.
Why would that be the case? Why is the contract designed in a way that, and why is it in place in such a way that doesn't give us that control?
A patient admitted into a hospital, the hospital then bills for the patient. The bed is not prepaid. And so in that regard, as a business interest, it is in their best interest to fill their beds. If they are currently today staffed to have, for example, 15 beds on a particular unit, it is within their business interest through their lobby, through our referrals, or through another county to admit until those patient beds are all filled today. We have regularly, as I mentioned, we had 61 patients since the beginning of the fiscal year, minors that have stayed beyond the 23 hours at our 23-hour unit waiting for a bed to be opened. We have worked to try to hold beds and at least get our patients in a queue so they can be the next admitted, and we believe that Jeff has been working with us on that issue. But we will never, since it's not our facility, be able to tell them, I know you're not getting paid for those beds, but if you could keep a few open for the weekend, that would really help us.
Are you telling me that's not possible to accomplish that through a contract with any provider of services to us?
It's always possible if you pay. You could contract to prepay for beds, but you can't, it's not actually a billing, and so you can't draw federal funds to do that. And again, how would you do it? Well, you would do it by spending your realignment dollars. And so it is not a simple contract where you could just contract and then those beds are available to you. It is in their best interest to fill their hospital.
Madam Clerk, is Mr. Chin still available? I don't know how you do this, Ms. Kraus, but I sure am glad that you do.
Yes, Mr. Chin is still on the line. So, Mr. Chin, go ahead and unmute your mic. Supervisor Maggard would like to speak with you.
Mr. Chin, are you there? Yes. We'll give him a moment to unmute.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Chin. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, Mr. Chin. We can hear you just fine as well. Mr. Walker and I were just discussing the availability of beds to accommodate the youth that we need and the need that we have for the youth in our community. Did you hear our discussion about that?
Yes, I did.
Can you give me your perspective on whether or not your facility is indeed has adequate availability to us to meet that need, and if there are times that you are not able to meet that need?
Certainly. Thank you, Supervisor. I'm getting feedback, so forgive me.
We can hear you just fine on this end.
We do have, like has been stated, 30 to 35 open beds. At times, there are staffing constraints. We have worked with BHRS to get the patients in as rapidly as possible. I can't, if I know that the volume is there, we can staff for that. I would be more than happy to work closely with BHRS to do that, but I can't hold beds open if there is not going to be any need and have staff waiting. It would be like, having an ER full of nurses and not sending any of them home on the thought that you're going to have 50 patients come in and you only have 3. There have been times when we have had beds open and it's been indicated to us through the PEC that we're going to see so many, they've got patients for us, so we hold the beds open and none of those patients materialize. Maybe some are sent to outpatient or whatever happens, or they're sent to other facilities. But, as a businessman, I'm sure you understand that we can't, be fully staffed when the volume doesn't come in.
Mr. Chin, do you recognize, though, that we face a dilemma that if we have an unknown need come in, nobody can predict how this happens, and those are for youth, for care to be provided to youth that are now our responsibility. We can't predict that either. So is it conceivable that you might be able to provide us with maybe a stepped, a progressive level of service that so many beds would be available over the course of a weekend, or is that conceivable or not conceivable?
Yes, it is conceivable.
I hope that's something that we can
Definitely.
work out as we proceed, because I think that's, whether or not these 16 beds exist, or if it takes us 2 or 3 years for them to exist, we have a significant need in the interim, and I hope we can meet that. So I appreciate your willingness to work with us in that regard. I believe you said earlier that your ability to fill some of your beds was constrained by a constraint placed upon you by the county that said that you could not, you had a limit on how many people from out of county you could bring in. And I don't want to speak for Mr. Walker, but I believe Mr. Walker said that that was inaccurate, and that the county is not providing that, causing you to be constrained in that way. Can you give us your perspective on that, about whether or not that is accurate or not accurate? And maybe I just haven't understood.
Well, no, what Mr. Walker was saying is not accurate. It is actually in our contract with them that we can only accept 15 out-of-county involuntary patients. If we want to go over that, we have to call the crisis service administrator if I can get a hold of her to specifically ask to raise the cap. Now, that cap is raised by 1 or 2, but it has not been taken off. So it is still in the contract.
Well, I hope that you and Mr. Walker can work that out, because I want as many beds as possible available for use to treat people. And I'm not looking to pit one against the other. There's different opinions here.
No.
But I hope that Mr. Walker, can you, besides he can't hear you nod your head, can you acknowledge that you are willing to work with him on that?
Thank you, Supervisor, through the chair. We do have a weekly meeting set up, and we will certainly, that is one of the topics we're addressing right now.
Okay.
We will continue to do so.
Thank you. Today was the first day that I've heard about, I've only heard it, the patients that we care for separated into 2 basic groups, youth and adults. And it's been my understanding until 20 minutes ago that that Bakersville Behavioral Health, because of their structure, we could not be reimbursed for adults. But now I understand that it is adults in the age range of 22 to 64. And if they are older than 64 or younger than 22 but still an adult, we can get that. I don't know, I don't understand all the implications, and I think that's beyond the scope of today's conversation. But my question, and the question I want to pose to Mr. Chin, is that, Mr. Chin, if it's, you indicated your willingness to contract with us for patients that are within that adult range of 22 to 64, and as I understood Mr. Walker, that contracting with us meant that we would bear the full cost of the care of those patients at our expense, with no ability to be reimbursed because of the reimbursement model you guys have chosen to adopt. So is it conceivable, Mr. Chin, that you might be able to give us some kind of a preferred rate or some adjustment that would cause us not to incur that full cost?
Yes, I think we can look at all options.
Okay, that would be good. I would like that as well. Mr. Walker, we would like you to respond, if you could, on the record.
Thank you, Supervisor. We do send adult patients over 64 and older to BBHH now, and we already have a negotiated rate for that cost.
Okay. I know you were speaking with Ms. Kaler there while that conversation was going on, but Mr. Chin just indicated his willingness to discuss with you, to potentially contract with you for a preferred rate that might be less than the full out-of-pocket expense we would incur for adults within the range of 22 to 64. So are you willing, Mr. Walker, to have that conversation with him to see if that might be able to be accomplished?
Supervisor, through the chair, Medi-Cal allows you to negotiate one rate per population age group, and we have negotiated that with BBHH, and we are looking at what that rate is right now in an open renegotiation. What that means is that we are very much wanting to have a rate. What we can't have is a tiered rate in Medi-Cal. So if a Medi-Cal beneficiary, even if it's an adult under the age 64, we can't have 2 different rates by Medi-Cal regulation.
I think you're telling me you cannot do what he just told me he's willing to do, and that is potentially give us a better rate for patients aged 22 to 64. Are you telling me you cannot do that?
That is correct, sir.
I don't like being told it can't be done. So I would like to hear more about that as we go forward. It's beyond the scope of today's meeting, but I don't think that's a good answer, with all due respect. Okay, I believe in the process, in the benefit of creative tension. And I encouraged Good Samaritan Hospital to come forth with alternatives, because I think that creative tension brings upon an atmosphere in which we must struggle, sometimes uncomfortably struggle, to find better alternatives. It's exactly what the federal government is doing with the development of these vaccinations. It's exactly the way NASA had multiple groups figure out how to solve one problem, and the groups never got to talk to each other because that separate environment causes new innovation to occur. An innovation is occurring as we are in this process, I believe, and that is that and again, we can discuss this at greater lengths at another time, but I have shared, probably more than you wish to hear, Mr. Walker, my frustrations about how many homeless people are wandering the streets, suffering obviously from mental ailments, mental illness. And one of the things I'm very most encouraged by here is that this has caused a focus, this process where Good Samaritan has graciously been willing to, at some risk to themselves, put themselves out there with an alternative. They are opening themselves up to much criticism for having done this. I'm grateful for that because it has led us to some other things to consider. And one of those things is that a continuum of services should be available, not just mental health services. The most ill-equipped in our society to deal with government are those that are addicted and those that are mentally ill. They are wandering the streets and they can't understand why I have to go to this place to get this done and that place to get this other thing done, and I have to get on a bus and go across town. So they give up and they wander the streets. We need a facility that provides the continuum of help that they need, both mental illness treatment, but physical ailment treatment and addiction services. Though all of those services need to be offered somewhere by the county, and they are not being adequately, in my opinion, offered today. So one of the best ideas that I think has come out of this is the potential, we're going to decide at some point whether or not we're going to go forward with 16 more adult beds and 16 more youth beds. But it brings up this opportunity for us to have a discussion now about this continuum of care being made available. And one of the ways that can be done is that we could develop a skilled nursing facility. I'm just a plain old dumb accountant who is working in government for a while, so forgive me if I don't have all the right words. But something like a skilled nursing facility that provides that continuum of care that those people need, whether it be medical, mental, or addiction services. And developing some kind of a process by which we can have those kinds of beds available would require, because it's not cheap to offer them, and and there's little insurance coverage for it. So I would like us to explore the possibility of developing another alternative, and that is something like these skilled nursing facilities, and that's going to require that we try to find insurance for them. I've spoken with Jeff Flores, my dear friend and chief of staff, who happens to serve on the Kern Health Systems Board of Directors. He is going to pursue there, I'm going to pursue here, the possibility of developing health insurance for the homeless that are mentally ill and that are addicted, and provide health insurance that would allow for them to receive care in one of these facilities. The idea is that they would move off the street into a facility and have their addiction, put under some kind of management, have their mental illness put under some kind of management, and then once they're managed and predictable and stable, transfer them through that SNF into some other kind of more permanent housing facility. But the issue is, how do we get them insurance to do that? And there's no small issue involved in that about whether or not Medi-Cal will provide for such services. Well, if Medi-Cal is so archaic that it does not recognize this need, I want us to and of course I have to have at least two of my colleagues agree with me on this, and I respect their wisdom and prudence. But if it is indeed a good idea, we should put our full weight in attempting to find a way to change Medi-Cal so it will provide an opportunity for us to address all of these needs of these mentally ill, addicted homeless people that are acting out and being disruptive in our community, plus the horror that they live in every day inside their own minds. So whether or not Good Samaritan might become our partner in providing these 32 beds, 16 youth and 16 adult, I want us to explore whether or not they or anyone else in the universe might be able to help us provide something like a skilled nursing facility for the mentally ill and the addicted to get those homeless people off of our streets, stabilized, so we can then put them in some kind of a housing, more permanent housing process. Mr. Walker, could you speak to that for a moment?
Supervisor
Maggard, it's okay.
Maggard through the chair. I
No problem.
Scrivener, apologize.
No problem.
I am pleased with the words that you just shared. I think in one of our previous conversations, we talked about a psychiatric SNF facility, signing more people up for Medi-Cal, and that under the ACA version of Medi-Cal, simply lack of income qualifies you versus having to prove the disability. And then linking that to the types of facilities such as a skilled nursing facility. And I am encouraged with the conversations we've had with Good Samaritan Hospital on this very subject as well. And although I will be leaving the department, I believe we've been working with a subgroup and are coming back to you personally with more information on homeless outreach and homeless efforts to try to add to that continuum. I won't repeat the things you said back to me, except that everything you said made me feel good about what you want to see happen in your community, in our community.
Well, thank you. Some of this is, you know, I mentioned an atmosphere of creative tension. When you're desperate, you think of things. But one great mind who has helped me think of some of these things is Dr. Baga, and I want to thank him. I don't know him. I've never shook his hand. I've never looked him in the eye. I've seen him on a screen. So I don't know him, but I am grateful that he is willing to think about the whole continuum of care that these people need. And whether or not we proceed with these beds today or this other need is, I don't think there's another need more imminent in our society other than possibly COVID that is more pressing to the quality of life of our entire society. So that has to be addressed, and I hope we can come back to that. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate you indulging me to go on for so long.
Well, that's very exciting, and I appreciate, the more we talk through these things, Mike, the more we throw ideas out, right? That tension, even our very open disagreements about how things should be. We need to do that about everything. It's okay, and it's not personal. We have to address the homeless mental health issue. We have to take on the stigma of mental health, the increases of suicide. I mean, every family is dealing with this now, Bill. People are being more honest with me about their own family struggles, and this is a societal trauma that, if we don't address, affects our workforce, our economic growth, public safety, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's such a no-brainer. So, Mike, thank you for your creativity. I'm very eager to explore all of that with you. While we haven't discussed it up to now, I think it sounds very exciting. So I'm going to ask my other colleagues if they want to, Supervisor Couch, forgive me, a little bit out of sight, out of mind. My apologies. Do you have some input, Supervisor Couch? I know you can't plug in because you're not here, but if you could give us your thoughts.
I'm just taking it all in, and I appreciate the thought that Supervisor Maggard just gave us. I have a question. I would like to avoid something, and that is, should this RFP, whatever you call it, go out? I recall a situation that we had with the IT building, where I'm not going to use the right words like Mike just said either. The package that went out, maybe it's a different scenario. We got some bids back that were lower than the appraisal on the very front page, but the general services costs, when you folded them in there, put the project quote unquote over budget. Can that happen in this case? I hope it cannot.
Thanks, David. We've got Mr. Hill coming down to the podium
Okay.
to address your question, so just a second.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Jeff, good to see you.
Good to be seen. Jeffrey Hill, General Services, Chief General Services Officer. The current project budget for this project includes no general services costs. I believe that what Supervisor Couch was referencing was the soft costs related to design and engineering for the ITS building. But this project and the $25,480,000 includes no GS costs.
That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Supervisor Couch. Would you like to add any comments, or do you have any ideas about how we might proceed here? There certainly appear to be a number of questions that need some fleshing out from what I can tell. While I am not the expert on these issues, that's how it feels to me. So I'd like to know how you feel as I then jam up my colleagues to see how they feel.
I think we have a need, and I would like to address it, but I'm uncomfortable with the borrowing, even though I think Elsa gave us an excellent explanation and made me feel a little better about the borrowing. I would like to flesh out the conversation that Supervisor Maggard had with Mr. Chin and with Bill Walker. I'd like to get a better understanding of that, and I don't know that we can get that done today. That weighs on my mind. And I appreciate also what Good Samaritan has done. And I'd like to flesh their idea out, but I don't know that we have time for that either. So I'll
We
throw that back to you guys.
don't hear, but I take your point loud and clear. Thank you, Supervisor Couch. That is really helpful. I did not mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Anything else?
No problem. No, thank you.
Okay, I got your gist. Thank you. I do not see anybody else plugged in here. I do not see eagerness to move forward on this. We are late in the day. Unfortunately, we're going to probably continue the next matter to 2 p.m. My apologies to the folks waiting to talk about that, but this is a long day. We have lots of matters to address, so I would like to know from my colleagues. I see Supervisor Maggard, is that now or before? Thank you. Supervisor Gleason, your thoughts?
Thanks, appreciate it. Mike, great points. Thank you very much. Great idea. I think it's it sounds to me, I don't know if we've done this already, but it sounds like an evolution in our healthcare systems, which would be really good. Bill, could you explain to me what the correlation between that conversation we had with a SCIF, or a SNF rather, for the homeless that Mike has brought up, and the issue before us today? Is there a relationship that we need to understand there that I'm not seeing? Does one affect the other? Should we delay this vote until we better more clearly understand that concept, or can we move forward with this vote and move forward with that concept?
Thank you, Supervisor Gleason, to the chair. I would personally recommend that you move forward with a vote today and approve the psychiatric inpatient beds. Those are completely different types of beds than a psychiatric SNF facility. We do not have a SNF facility, and generally they are a step down. If you think of anyone who's gone to a skilled nursing facility from a hospital, it is a step down from hospital beds. And there's a lot of work that would have to be done to flesh out how to actually set up and adjudicate a skilled nursing facility, a psychiatric skilled nursing facility. Delaying one for the other, they're not related directly in that fashion.
What's the damage to your progression of this thing we've been going through for 4 or 5 years now to date with a delay? Is a delay acceptable, unacceptable, or what do we got to do?
Delay is delay. You know, we delayed in September, Supervisor, to today, and if we delay now, it's unclear when we would bring it back before the board, and what we would need to meet in order to get this approved at this point. That's why I would separate it from the skilled nursing facility. That is, for me, a different discussion.
let me ask, just to ground the bases here for Supervisor Maggart. I'm interested in moving forward with this issue. Do you see any reason why your concepts and your ideas would interfere with us moving forward with this issue? If so, could you
Madam
please
Chair?
explain those?
Sorry, my apologies. I looked over for an answer and didn't call on you. Mike, your thoughts?
Thank you. Supervisor Gleason, I don't think the skilled nursing facility, for lack of a better description, the continuum of care facility for mentally ill and addicted homeless people is something that makes or breaks the issue of whether or not we should build these 32 beds. That's a separate issue, I think. I think the issue of whether or not Bakersfield Behavioral Health Hospital can contract with us to make more youth beds available, and whether or not they can give us something that Mr. Walker says is not possible to be done, but Mr. Chin says is possible, I think he implies is possible to be done. Can we get more beds without building more facilities and using more taxpayer dollars? That is a question that I think is pertinent to whether or not we should move forward, because once we pull the trigger and say we're going to spend $25+ million, that's going to happen. So I think that is possibly a reason, but I don't think the continuum of care, the SNF facility for homeless, mentally ill and addicted homeless, that's a separate issue, I think.
Okay. Any thoughts, last thoughts?
No, Supervisor, I am willing to work under the guidance of the board at this point.
Right. Well, I agree with what Supervisor Maggart said about the need for a more comprehensive review in that spectrum of health care. I'm also convinced that you have an excellent proposal in front of us, and that we are in the latter stages of the development. So I'm interested in moving forward with your concept and moving forward with that concept. And I would, if we move forward today, we can still have negotiations with BBHH and the other one?
Supervisor
Good Samaritan.
Gleason, to the chair, we can always have negotiations on issues of bed rate. I do believe, and I don't mean to speak for the Supervisor Maggart, his concern of whether negotiations with BBHH could lead us to not need the 16-bed adult unit or adolescent unit, I think is where he's going. For me, there are many mitigating factors in addition to just the bed rate.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion on staff's recommendation. I just made a motion on staff's recommendation.
Mick, thank you very much. Mike, can I get your advice or opinion about proceeding on a motion? I feel torn and confused, frankly, because I'm not an expert and I haven't talked to any of you about this before today. So I'm trying to wrap my head around it. And I feel like Bill is a phenomenal leader and he genuinely cares about this issue. I have nothing but admiration for Bill. I'm curious about saving money and about being creative in a process where we utilize existing opportunities in a way we haven't done before. I don't know that this is the right time to do that. Certainly it could be, but I just want your thoughts on that. We haven't had a chance to talk about this.
We really do try to pay attention to the Brown Act. So, we don't have conversations
That's correct.
to any large extent outside the purview of this room. But I'm happy to respond. I think there is a need for more beds, because if there wasn't a need for more beds, I don't think Good Samaritan would be advocating to supply more beds. So I think that infers that there is a need. Could that need be met by a better contract, by a better working relationship with Bakersfield Behavioral Health? Maybe, but I don't know that. But absent some concession by Bakersfield Behavioral Health and some assistance from our Kern County Behavioral Health Services, our mental health department, absent some help from them, I don't think that's going to get fixed unless those two can work that out. Remember the creative tension thing, the spotlight is on them. The entire weight of public scrutiny is on them now to try to see if something can be done. If that could be done in the next few weeks, great. But I do think there's a need for more beds absent of that. So I don't know if I can give you a better answer than that. This
Not
other
really.
issue, the other issue about, I miss not being able to see each
I'm
other
just
smile.
kidding.
Yeah,
I'm
I know.
just kidding.
it's so flat when you can't see somebody smile at you. The issue about the sniff thing is a whole separate thing. I hope we vigorously pursue that. We shouldn't go to sleep tonight without pondering that. We shouldn't go to sleep any night without pondering that, because the suffering is so great out there. But so I hope I've given you some perspective.
Okay. Thank you. We currently have a motion, so I'm hungry. I don't know about you guys, but I'd like to eat my sandwich I share with Mick every Tuesday for 4 more sessions, and figure out what we're going to do here. I'm excited about fleshing out a new chapter of mental health in Kern County. I'm excited. I think it's well beyond time, and I'm really open here. So, colleagues, I need your help. Otherwise, I'm going to lunch.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Scrivener.
Thank you. I think it is obvious that there is a need. I am troubled that we did have so many youths that were waiting to be placed up to the 23-hour hold since during the fiscal year. So that would be since July 1. Is that right, Ms. Walker? On the other hand, I see these empty beds at Bakersfield Behavioral Health, and I'm thinking, why can't those beds be accessed? I get the staffing issue. They don't want to staff for if they're afraid that unit, that pod, or whatever it is, isn't going to be filled to justify that staffing, and so that jams us up, it seems. Of course, that may be the case if we open this, and as obviously the need seems to continue to grow, we may be right back where we started at some point with that capacity issue. Same thing with Good Sam. It seems to me that they're saying that they can fill the need for the adult beds for us, but I don't see anything before me clearly that says exactly how they could do that. If the majority of the board wants to wait and have some more discussions with both of those two entities, I'm completely open to that. I think that perhaps that could be a fruitful discussion. I mean, I understand delay is delay, but I'm okay with waiting for a certain period of time. But I think that that folks need to know that we can't delay forever. If they're going to be able to present a plan to us that is workable, then it needs to come soon, because I don't want to see us have a situation where we have more and more youth that are needing to be placed, adults that are needing to be placed, et cetera. In regard to the idea of mental health services for the homeless that are mentally ill, addicted, I do think we need to be mindful that there are services that are available for folks, but a lot of folks don't want to access those services. And so how do we compel people to get help when they don't want to? I think that gets us right back into a situation that we're currently in with Prop 47, Prop 57, et cetera. There's no longer that stick that goes along with the carrot. And so I think that is an issue that we're going to continue to run up against, because we live in the state of California, where drug offenses have been decriminalized, theft has been decriminalized, et cetera. And so people aren't compelled to go get the help that they need necessarily. And so I'm okay to hold off on this for another couple weeks, another few weeks, to have those conversations with BBHH and Good Sam.
You're open,
But
it sounds like.
I know I'm over, right?
No, you're open is what I said.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't say anything else. I said
Okay,
you're open to
sorry.
the outcome.
It's a little muffled with the mask, but anyway.
Sorry.
But I do think that these folks at those two entities need to realize that we need something clear, something more concrete than we think we can have the discussions and we think we can make it happen. I mean that's great. I'm happy that they're open to it, but I'd like to see some kind of a commitment. Otherwise, I think we need to move forward on these facilities because the need is there for the bed space.
Zach, thank you. Well stated. Gleason, was this from now or before?
Nope, there's now.
Okay, go for it.
Well, I was up there twice.
Yeah.
No, you were ahead of me.
You were ahead of Mike, so go ahead.
Thanks. I agree with I agree with what everybody's saying here. My point is we haven't had this conversation for 4 or 5 years or forever. Can we expect to have that conversation now? And we need this capability. So my thinking is we need to move forward with this capability. And if by passing this measure today, the question I'm going to get to is this. What is the best way to initiate and conclude successful negotiations with Good Sam and with BBHH to develop a system that accommodates the health and welfare of Kern County? Is it by passing this measure? Will that put more heat on them? Or not passing this measure put more heat on them?
They need our direction. Bill said he's going to go with the direction we provide.
So do you have an answer to that question?
Supervisor, to the chair.
The direction we will need to go is optimizing bed space for the health and welfare of Kern County and
Yes,
staff.
yes, sir.
How do we best achieve that? By passing this measure?
It is our proposal that this is the best way to achieve that gain. None of the conversations with these facilities are new to us in terms of working expansions with them. Good Sam would have to do it by building more capacity. And as we said, we can't build Medi-Cal for the adults for the extended beds at BBHH. And we don't need 30 or 40 more adolescent beds. We still feel this is the best proposal, but at the same time, if the board feels that there are factors they would like examined, we of course are going to put our entire weight and effort behind that. So
How long would it take you to develop those strategies or those thoughts?
right now, all of our strategies are developed. What we don't have is we can meet on some of the issues that have been raised, but strategies from how Good Samaritan or BBHH would do some of the efforts they've talked about, we would have to meet with them and understand the strategies from their perspective.
If you had strategy development and negotiations with Good Sam and with BBHH, at the end, would you still need this facility?
Sir, we feel we will need these facilities.
I think so too. Thank you.
Mick, thank you. Supervisor Maggard, you're plugged in again.
Thank you. With regard to two things. First, with regard to the issue of, I think Mr. Walker just said, our strategies are fully developed. I don't remember what exactly the words were, but with all due respect, I don't think they are fully developed. There are, man, if just some simpleton like me can talk to a few people like Dr. Baga and come up with ideas that need to be pursued, they're not fully developed. Other alternatives, more robust discussion should occur. If mental health's mindset is that it is not possible to negotiate a better arrangement for adults 22 to 64, but Bakersfield Behavioral Health says, yes, there is, clearly there's something amiss. And the public deserves to hear both of those sides laid out bare in front of us so we can figure out if that's the case or not. I do think more beds are necessary. How do we get to those more beds? That's the question I think that's pressing upon us. There is a way, Supervisor Scrivener, for us, besides what's in place, for us to compel mentally ill and addicted homeless people to go into facilities. But it requires a shift in the perspective of our mental health department on the application of the Lanterman-Petra Short Act that compels someone, if they're not able to be, if they're, and again, I can't cite all the right words, but if they're not able to manage their own affairs so they're a risk to themselves or others, there is a way to compel them to do that. That would require a shift, I believe, in the perspective of our mental health department as to how they see the application of the Lanterman-Petra Short Act. And that is one of the things I will be expecting to hear when we choose who the new leader for that department is going to be. There must be an openness to that if I'm going to support whoever that person is. That's a side issue from today, but there is another way to get that done.
Mike, do you want to make a motion to continue? I don't hear anything from Supervisor Couch. I don't hear anything from, we do have a motion, but I do not hear from other colleagues that we're ready to proceed with this. So I think we're going to move on. Couch, did you want to say something? I couldn't tell if you were trying to get in there or not.
No,
Okay,
no,
got it.
thank you.
So, thank you. So I want to ask my colleagues then, Bill, you've gotten some direction from the board, clear as mud, I'm sure, but I look forward to seeing you again and being creative as we move forward. My apologies for any disappointment you may feel today, but I appreciate your flexibility and your commitment to these issues. You have worked tirelessly to destigmatize the suffering that so many of our brothers and sisters in this community live with. And that is utterly commendable and admirable as a person with lots of experience in these arenas. Really, I so appreciate you. So please help us work through this with you and get clearer answers, because it's a changing world. Everything has to be scrutinized in a new way, and I hope you don't take that personal, Bill. I have deep, profound respect for the work that you do, and thank you. So we're going to move forward. The contracts issue, our people have already left on that. I indicated I should have told them earlier. Sorry about that, but nonetheless, we will come back at 2. I would entertain a motion from one of my colleagues, if you don't mind.
Madam Chair, so for the record, Supervisor Gleason's motion died for lack of a second.
Thank you.
If you are going to continue item 33 this morning to the afternoon session, it does require a vote of your board.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Given the time, the fact that we have issues to discuss in closed session, 57, 58, and 59, and 61, I think we should come back at 2. And also, I'm hungry. So let's do this. Thank you, Mike. I have a motion. Zach, a second. Please call a voice vote.
Okay, the motion is to
continue that
item 33 to the 2 p.m. session. Roll call vote, Supervisor Gleason.
Aye.
Supervisor Scribner.
Aye.
Supervisor Maggard.
Aye.
Supervisor Couch.
Yes.
And Supervisor Perez.
Yes. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mick, for the motion to adjourn to 2 p.m.